Welcome back to the channel. This is Ready Storm, and you are watching what if Naruto was trained by Sarutobi in secret. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
A 16-year-old Naruto gazed at the ship before him and sighed. Since only he truly knew what was happening, he had a worried expression on his face. Some people, unlike him, had pieces of the puzzle. He had been living a lie all his life, and it was time to tell the truth. They destroyed Atasuki Orochimaru and the Sound Village were destroyed. For the Leaf Village, everything appeared to be going smoothly, but that was untrue. He noticed that everyone was now present when he looked around. Gaara, the Kazekage, and his siblings Sasuke, the Senseis, Ibiki, Enko, and Genma, as well as the Hyugas, Akamichi, Inazakas, Abarame, and Yamenko's clan heads, as well as the Hokage herself and the entire Rookie 9 and Guy's team. Tazuna, Ayame, her father, and a few other guests. He had a flashback of the Snow Country princess and her family. Sakura asked, "What's got you happy now, Naruto?" When he smiled and she noticed that he was happy for the first time on this trip. "I can't wait to see Yukie Ajian. You remember her, right?" Naruto said, glancing at her. With a faint smile on her face, Sakura chuckled and remarked, "It's a little hard to forget the princess of Snow Country after what we went through, all that trouble to save her. It was right before Sasuke left." Naruto laughed and replied, "Don't worry, you will see him Ajian someday. Also, she's really became a strong leader after that time and her country has grown." Sakura asked, glancing at him, "How do you know that?" Naruto glanced at her and said, "I visited a couple of times while I was traveling with Erosan and he asked her to be in his Icha Icha Paradise movie." Sakura asked, "She did not do it, did she?" as she gave him a crazy look. "No," her response was that only her husband would get to see her naked. Naruto chuckled. "That's good that she is waiting," Sakura said, releasing the breath she had been holding. Naruto began climbing the ramp, but as he did so, he shouted loud enough for her to hear, "No, you misunderstand me, she's already married." Then he finished, and the others followed. One of the crew members stopped him when he reached the top, leaning in and whispering in Naruto's ear. The crew member replied, Sorry to interrupt, Naruto-sama, but the prince and princess have come to see you along with their security. They are in the king's suite near the captain's to your left, room 101. Naruto nodded and grinned before turning left and making his way to the ship's bow. Gazing at Naruto, Gaara recalled the note he had received from Naruto the previous month. "Gaara, please come to Konoha on the 15th of next month and ask the Hokage to accompany the mission to meet the leader of Snow Country with all of the clan heads, the Rookie 9, the Guy's team, and Hanabi Hyuga. I hate to ask this of our friendship. Tsunade is completely unaware of this, but the third Hokage had me complete an S-class mission for him that I was not allowed to discuss prior to this time and date. I swear that I will explain everything as soon as we board the boat and travel far enough out to see Snow Country. Konoha and Suna will both be impacted by this, and if things do not work out as planned, we will end up in the Fourth Great War. It's that serious, and until then, I can't even tell Tsunade about it or even bring it up. Do this for me, please. For our friendship and anything else we have in common. I'll be sending similar requests to some of the other parties involved. And Snow Country's official notice will specify exactly who needs to show up until I say otherwise. Don't pretend that I know what's going on. It's more significant than Atasuki. I promise. Regards." Naruto. Gaara nodded as he turned to face his siblings, whom he had previously shown the letter to back in Suna, and they too boarded the cruise ship. When the same man said, "I'm sorry, miss, only special cases are allowed in that section of the ship while we are still docked," Sakura began to move in the same direction after seeing Naruto nod and move to the front of the ship. All of the people on the ramp turned to watch her as she asked him, "Then why is Naruto allowed?" "The leader of Snow Country's private guards asked Naruto-sama to go there," the man said with a smile. Since no one ever referred to Naruto as Naruto-sama, that caught everyone's attention. Knowing a little about what would happen after what happened, a certain white-eyed girl grinned at that. Rewind to deliver the birthday gift she had purchased for Naruto. A 9-year-old Hinata was waiting outside his apartment. Goggles, she heard what sounded like a fight breaking out inside his apartment. As she prepared to place it on the floor at his door, she triggered her bloodline out of fear for the worst and was astounded by what she saw. Even more surprising was what Naruto was wearing while battling a moving wooden target. With the exception of the mask on his belt during the battle, he was dressed in an ABNU uniform. She was so startled that she didn't notice the person approaching from behind. The third Hokage responded, "Let's go inside, Hinata. By the expression on your face, I think you accidentally uncovered something you should not have. We will talk about it, and I have a proposition for you." When Hinata realized that the Hokage was standing behind her, she became less frightened after listening to him. They went into Naruto's apartment and had a conversation that would forever alter her life. Finish the flashback. Knowing what was happening, a man known to Team 7 as Tazuna grinned because he had promised the third to help in exchange for what he had done. Rewind. The third looked at Tazuna and replied, I agree to send protection and only charge you the C rank, which is the price you can pay, even though I know it is an A rank. I will be sending one of my best ninja with you on this mission to make sure things work out, along with a side mission. He will contact you at a later time down the road after the mission has been completed and tell you what needs to be done to pay the mission. He will give you the code phrase, Kitsune Cage. Until that time, act as though you were scared and your country was too poor to pay. He will make sure once the team finds out the true rank it continues and is completed. Finish the flashback. He was astounded by the amount of work required for this, but he had asked for it exactly as he had been asked to. In addition to the other task that was more within his purview, being Wave Country's leader was only a benefit, but it was all worthwhile. After grabbing his bag, he ascended the ramp. Hiyashi wasn't content. He was first asked to accompany Neji and both of his daughters to the Hokage Tower. After that, he was informed that they all needed to get ready for a trip to meet with the Snow Country leader about a matter that might result in the destruction of the Leaf Village. At first, he was going to say no, but then he heard that the message had also been sent to the other 7 great clans, along with a list of those who had been specifically asked. He had never seen anything like this in his life. He was aware that in addition to the Cage, the leaders of Wave, T, the traveling merchant, and Snow Country whoever they were had also sent a message, saying that only the Rainbow Country and Waterfall Country had done so. Some of the world's wealthiest villages were supporting whatever was happening. He was informed that the third Hokage was somehow involved, but he had no idea what it was or how it was all related. Tsunade glanced at her teammate, who for some reason appeared to be depressed. She was initially taken aback when she received all of the requests from these various nations, as well as a scroll written by her sensei, the third Hokage, instructing whoever was in charge to carry out the requests of the parties who approached the current Hokage. She was initially unsure of what they all had in common, but with the help of her assistant Sakura, she discovered that they did share one trait. Even the ninja group that had been called in together with their senses, Ibiki, Anko, Shizune, Uruka, the Rookie 9, and guys formed the Konohamaru Corp. Every clan in Konoha, along with the sole other key figure in one of them. Dustin, the proprietor of the Wolfclaw weapon shop, and the cook from Konoha's Soul Ramen stand, along with his daughter Ayame. Jiraiya and herself. Naruto was the only thing they had in common. She was aware of his involvement, and based on Jiraiya's behavior, he was aware of all or at least some of what was happening. However, he informed her that the leader of Snow Country had sworn him to secrecy until the appropriate moment, which he could not do because of the serious consequences. She detested not being informed. It became clear that Sakura was involved when she began to make a fuss about Naruto. The ship departed the docks for the one-day voyage to Snow Country when the whistle blew and everyone had boarded. After they had been at sea for approximately an hour, Tsunade called a meeting of all parties. After 15 minutes, she asked, "Is this everyone?" as she glanced at everyone. Kakashi remarked, "It looks like Naruto not here," as everyone turned to look around. "He better not be picking up your habits." Kakashi. Sakura, can you go and find him quickly? Tsunade sighed and rubbed her temples. After nodding, Sakura walked out of the room and toward the front of the ship when an ABNU-like figure landed in front of her and asked, "Can I help you, Miss Sakura?" Startled, Sakura questioned, "How do you know my name?" The individual stated, all of the escort security was given info on the people who were coming on this trip. Sakura nodded, stating, "I was looking for my teammate Naruto." She had previously encountered similar circumstances, but not on such a grand scale. When a second figure landed next to the first, he was dressed similarly, but Sakura was startled to see who it was. He said, "Sorry Sakura, the Dobi is busy visiting the prince and princess of Snow Country right now and they are not to be disturbed." "Sasuke-kun, is that you?" Sakura finally asked, standing like a fish out of water. Pointing to the man at his side, Sasuke grinned and said, "Yes, I was asked to help with security along with Itachi here." The taller of the two was pointed at by Sakura, who said, "Itachi, as in the Itachi you left us for to kill, the same Itachi that worked for Atsuki, the same Itachi that was after Naruto." Itachi removed his mask and replied, "Yes, but there is a lot more you are not aware of. By the end of this trip all questions will be answered. Come on brother, we need to check in with Haku and Zabuza. I will inform them and Naruto-sama about your needing to see him." Sakura stood there for a few minutes while her brain attempted to reset itself after Sasuke nodded and they were both surrounded by swirling leaves. After that, she turned around and walked back to the group's location. Everyone could sense Sakura's presence in the room, so Tsunade inquired, "What's wrong, Sakura, and where is Naruto?" After a few moments of staring at her, Sakura took a break, sat down, and uttered the words, "I think I just lost my mind." Tsunade gave her a suspicious look, and Ino asked, "What's new, forehead?" Sakura continued to gaze out the window and stated, "I went to find Naruto when somebody who looked like an ABNU appeared and called me by my name." Sasuke then appeared beside him dressed almost the same and said Naruto was with the prince and princess of Snow Country, and then he acted all chummy with the guy next to him who removed his mask, and he called Itachi and they seemed to get along. Even though I checked the body of Itachi myself and saw he was dead, they then left and said they had to meet Haku and Zabuza, who both died on our wave mission. Everyone turned to see that Tazuna was the source of the laughter. "No, they are alive and are members of the Elemental Village Security Force directly under the Shodem Elemental Cages," he said. Kakashi began to scream. "But I killed Haku with a Chidori and Zabuza died fighting those bandits while he killed Gato. How can they be alive?" Gaara inquired, "And how is Itachi alive? I saw his body myself." Haku entered the room with Zabuza and said, "I was asked to make sure you are all doing okay. We still have a long journey ahead of us and we want everyone as comfortable as possible. Naruto-sama will be here shortly as soon as he can get away from the prince and princess." With wide eyes, Kakashi asked, "How are you alive?" "I killed you." Zabuza laughed as he said, "Those were blood clones. The Rokadami Hokage had to make us disappear so we could work without the hunters after us to prepare to help the Leaf Village with what is happening." Tsunade glanced at them and responded, "There is no Rokadami Hokage. I am the Godem Hokage, and the only person I have considered as possible Rokadame Hokage is Naruto, but he is not ready. Who is this person?" Haku responded, "I am sorry, but the Sandaime appointed this person with permission from the two heads of the council in secret, and he has been waiting and preparing for what is to come. He was only allowed to give his existence only if you had refused to become Godem Hokage, or at this time now. If the missions failed, I can't say anymore because he will have to tell you the rest himself. The Sandaime had to be careful with the situation at hand, or it would have meant either the death of everyone in the Leaf Village or the enslavement of everyone." "But how is that possible?" inquired Hiyashi. To everyone's surprise, Naruto walked to the front of the room and leaned against the wall, saying, "Tell me, Hiyashi, could the Leaf at any time in the last 30 years stand up to the combined power of 16 villages at one time?" He was wearing a standard black ninja Junin outfit with a white cape that had orange flames on the bottom and sleeves instead of his black and orange suit. He also had the kanji for Rokadime Hokage. "What the hell's going on? The only thing that all of this has in common is you. So start explaining, and what is with the outfit you have?" Tsunade said, glancing at Naruto. Naruto let out a sigh and said, "Zabuza, Haku, please join Itachi and Sasuke in patrolling the ship for unwanted guests, and also keep an eye out. I don't trust that war horse more than I can throw him. He fucked the village over too many times, and by now the elders have informed him like I told them to." As they departed, they both nodded and uttered the words, "Yes, Naruto-sama." Naruto waited until Tsunade interrupted, saying, "Start talking, Naruto. What is this Rokadami stuff they were talking about, and what is going on?" As he walked to the front of the room and sat down on the ground in a lotus position, Naruto gestured for the empty seat with the others and said, "Have a seat. This will take a long time, and that question I asked you, Hiyashi, was not a simple question. That is exactly what we are facing. I am not moving until I know what is going on," Tsunade declared. A distortion appeared, and a tattoo that only Tsunade understood appeared as Naruto leaned down, rolled up his right pant leg, made the ram sign with his hand, and uttered the words, "KIA." She turned to him and asked, "How do you have the secret tattoo of the Hokage?" Naruto, "Only someone approved by the heads of the council and the Hokage could have that." Hiyashi looked at him and remarked, "It is impossible for any country to stand up to the might of 16 countries at one time, and it is also impossible for them to join to do that because of their different views and opinions." Naruto gestured for the chair once more, and she sat down, looking dumbfounded. Naruto replied, "I wish that was so, Hiyashi, but because of certain events it is really possible. It all started before most of the people in this room were even born. Can anyone in this room tell me how exactly the Second Great Ninja War ended?" In Jiraiya, you might want to stay close to Tsunade when I reveal some stuff about the past. She might try and kill herself or perform Orochimaru forbidden jutsu to bring the Sandaime back to life so she can kill him. Jiraiya sat next to her and nodded while she watched Naruto wait. Shikamaru continued, "The Second Great War ended when all the great countries decided no victor could be had as they were all going broke, and the loss of manpower was too much to have. They had a peace agreement that was only known by the people who attended it as to what was decided. Why?" Naruto looked at the scroll in his coat prior to opening it. Exactly right, the agreement was a sign of neutral hostilities. However, what is not mentioned in the history books is that the 11 minor countries had wanted to attack the 5 great nations after that because most of the fighting took place in Thair lands. The 5 great nations pleaded with them because it would have sent the economy of every nation into debt and into another endless war. A neutral party of the 5 great lords of the lands had decided to intervene and fix the problem before it got worse. Inoichi replied, "What does an event that happened nearly 70 years ago have to do with what is going on now, Naruto? I don't understand." Naruto glanced at the document and said, "I have the treaty that was signed." The neutral party had made an agreement with all the smaller nations to pay for the repairs to all the damage that was done. In exchange, the 5 great country would pay a tribute for 50 years to the neutral party to repay them for helping solve the problem. However, they covered themselves and they made each of the parites involved, the 5 great nations and the 11 smaller nations, that should any country fail to repay the debt in full, then the other countries had to help the neutral party claim ownership over the village that was in default and everything inside, including clans, bloodlines, buildings, money, ninja and techniques, and villagers as property. In other words, it would be 16 countries against 1. Inoichi replied, "But surely we paid this so we would not have to be forced into slavery by this deal." Naruto continued, "We were fine until the last 10 years of the original contract, when a certain member of the Leaf Village decided he wanted his own private army during the Third Great War, and he intercepted the payments as spoils of war. He took the money and formed Root. The Sandaime never found out because of the war until it was too late after the war had ended, when the neutral party asked for the total amount due at that time because they did not want to force the deal. Since our economy was crippled by the war, we were unable to pay it, so the Sandaime came up with a plan that bought us some time that unfortunately was interfered with Aegean but by someone else, so he had to use another plan, and he did that by training me to get the money for the village and also a failsafe should outside interference happen." Aegean, looking bored as Sakura, responded, "But you are an idiot, Naruto. How could he train you and do what you claim? It does not make any sense." Kakashi responded, "The Sandaime trained you, but how? I was your teacher, as was Jiraiya. How could he have trained you?" Many people gasped when Naruto said, "I was in a BNU for 4 years before I was 10. Kakashi, I had to show the village that I was an idiot to make them not look too closely at me because of their hate. I was trained to do missions solo, and I was also under Itachi before we had to kill part of the Uchiha clan." He also removed his jacket, put his hands in a ram seal, and said, "Kia." A distortion appeared on his left arm, and a tattoo that most of the adults recognized appeared. Ino inquired, "Why did you kill the Uchiha clan, Naruto?" A voice in the distance said, "Because after they found out what was going on by Danzo, they started betraying the Leaf Village by giving vital information to Iwa and Cloud." It was the Uchiha clan council that had given Cloud info on how to kidnap Hinata, as well as information on when prized ninja were out on missions to either be killed or kidnapped. The night that we killed them, we had originally went to capture the Uchiha council, but they resuscitated and my father sided with us. It wound up where it was those loyal to my father and the Hokage versus those that were loyal to the council. As it ended, only 10 Uchiha were left alive, and another lie was created to try and help the village, when everyone turned to see Edak Uchiha. Gaara glanced at him, and his sand began to shoot for Itachi, but was halted by a cluster of roses and vines. Everyone turned to see 2 blonde children under 4 with blue eyes, and a young girl said, "Don't hurt Uncle Itachi. Daddy, Mr. Sandman not going to hurt him, is he?" Everyone started to perspire at the idea of Gaara playing and referring to Itachi as his friend, when Naruto grinned and said, "No, Yuna, Uncle Gaara not going to hurt the guy who was giving us secret info on Atsuki. He was just playing. Happy to see his friend Aegean now. What are you and Arashi doing here? Daddy thought you were asleep." Hell would have erupted if the small children hadn't been present in the room. Everyone started to perspire when the young boy approached, examined the sand, poked it, and turned to face Gaara. "Can you make a sandcastle, Uncle Gaara?" he asked. "We woke up when Uncle Itachi came and checked on us, so we wanted to see you, Daddy," Yuna said, grinning as she approached Naruto and sat on his lap. Tsunade finally questioned, "Naruto, who are these kids and how do they use my grandfather's wood abilities?" After Naruto grinned. After extracting a seed from his coat and causing it to blossom into a red rose, Naruto said, "Yuna, I want you to go and give this to the pretty lady there. Her name is Tsunade and she is your great-grandmother I told you and your brother about." With a smile, Yuna stood up and approached, saying, "Hello, Granny." "What do you mean? I am her grandmother, and you still haven't answered my questions," Tsunade said, grinning at the girl and accepting the rose. Naruto took a deep breath and replied, "I know, and the answer is one of the reasons I never call you by your name or title." That's one of the lies the Sandaime told to try and keep things under wraps. You may not want to remember it, but you did have a child once. The Sandame told you that you had lost it because of the attack, but that was a lie. You had a baby boy who was my father. He did it to not only protect both you and him from your enemies, seeing as you had started collecting them at that point, but also to ensure that our family line did not end by accident. I have known since the first day we met in that bar. I wanted to tell you, but as a Hokage I was not allowed to because the needs of the village was more important at that point." As she recalled those incidents, Tsunade shed a few tears in the corner of her eyes. She gave the young girl another hug and asked, "Who was your father?" "Who was Naruto?" Jiraiya spoke with a sorrowful tone. "It was Arashi Kazama, the Yondaime. The Sandame lived up to his name as the professor by outsmarting everyone as long as possible. I did not learn about it until the kids here used one of their bloodlines when Naruto had me make a trip here during our 3-year training trip. He had got away with tricking me the whole time we were here until we were leaving, and Yuna here called Naruto daddy and made a flower like Naruto did a moment ago." When he made a few hand seals, Arashi's eyes widened and lightning began to form at the tips of his hands. Arashi ran up and said, "Hey daddy, look what Uncle Sasuke showed me." Naruto was beaming and replied, "I am proud of you son, but what have I told you about using jutsu when not in training areas or in fights, and did you learn it right or copy it?" "I forgot dad, and I copied it. It's boring to learn it the other way," Arashi remarked, rubbing the back of his head. Naruto nodded his head and said, "Until you learn to use it right. I don't want you to use it Aegean, or I won't teach you the Rasengan when you get older, and I don't care if you can just copy it if you don't know how to use it right and what else it does. It can be used against you." Sakura finally had enough and got up and shouted, "Rasengan Naruto, he is just a child and does not have a fox in him to help heal him, and I know what that other jutsu was also. Chidori, what the hell kind of father are you, and when the hell did you become a father, and who is their mother?" After chuckling, Yuna remarked, "Uncle Sasuke is right, you are a pink-hair banshee." That was it. Sakura twitched as practically everyone began to laugh at her. Naruto gave a fake cough and said, "Arashi, Yuna daddy still has a lot of things he needs to talk over with his friends, so go play with Uncle Itachi and ask Auntie Haku to show you how to fix boo-boos." After pumping their fists in the air, both children ran outside and yelled, "Yeah, more jutsu." Everyone in the room had an expression of explanation when Naruto turned back to face them after they had left. Naruto cursed himself and said, "First off Sakura, that jutsu was not the Chidori but something called Raiden, nerve shock. It is a D-rank jutsu. We have been teaching him and his sister both defensive jutsu to help protect them since they were 2 years old, seeing as they have enough chakra for a normal genin and are actually nearly genius level. Arashi could give Shikamaru a good run and Shoji and go WEDID it while Atsuki was still out there, as well as any enemies of mine or my family has out there. I had to keep secret about them even existing until now for fear that someone would either capture them or kill them to get to me. Now as for how they came to be, when Team 7 came here to help Yukie to reclaim her throne from her uncle, I had already been told what to expect on this mission, as I had a side mission to make sure her uncle never caused her problems Aegean to gain an ally and possible financial help. It was the one of the last missions the Sandame had for me before he died. During that mission Yukie and I sort of bonded, and after the mission was over and I was in the hospital, she confessed her feeling for me and I had also developed feeling for her. Kakashi continued, "But you were completely covered in wounds after that, and I left Sasuke with you to keep an eye on you while me and Sakura returned to notify the Hokage of the mission." Naruto nodded and continued, "Why do you think he was my best man at my wedding that week, and as for my wounds I had the fox heal them quickly for me. Anyways, I told her about the real me and about the truth of Kyuubi's attack and my family, and she did not hold it against me and even supported of it. I also told her about what was really going on when I left to return. I did not know it, but she was pregnant with the twins you all saw earlier. When she found out, she sent word to me and I gave her my bloodline summon contract so we could keep in contact, and luckily for me the infiltration plan for the Sound Village had worked and I was given access out of the village to go around and prepare for this stuff." Tsunade eventually recovered enough from her emotional turmoil to inquire, "What sound infiltration?" Naruto said, "Sasuke defection was a setup so that we could recover the snake contract from Orochimaru and also have a spy in his village. For those who went on the mission, you will remember I nearly set several alarms off when we were fighting the Sound 5. It was a way to slow us down and not for Sasuke to successfully make it to Sound. I had my contact in ABNU who knew who I was, make sure an opening was available for him to leave. They also watched in the background when Sakura tried to stop Sasuke, but he had no choice. We both had our orders from the Sandame we had to fulfill. They also were less than a mile behind each of our fights, ready to step in if things went for worse. I underestimated all of you on that mission as to how far you would go, or I would never have allowed it to progress as far as it did, and for those wounds I am sorry anyways. Since he possessed a bloodline contract like I do now, he was able to relay messages like Itachi was doing to inform me, and when he was alive the Sandame, what was happening. Shikamaru responded, Naruto, what exactly is a blood contract you were talking about? I never heard of them before. Naruto laughed and replied, I am not surprised, most people who have them don't know how to use them or even of their existence. Blood contracts are the original summoning contracts that were kept inside family lines, but after so many summon animals either got too many summoners or none at all, they started doing the contracts they use now. Bloodline contracts don't have to be signed, but you have to have the family markers in your blood for it to work. The Sandame knew of 2 clans that had them and knew what animals they were, so they were like a hidden trump card. First, the Uchiha family has the cats. Hinata, would you be so kind? After biting her thumb and slamming her hands to the ground, Hinata smiled and said, I would love to. Naruto-sama. A falcon then materialized as she performed the hand signs. Hinata, how did you learn about that? Inquired Hiyashi. Naruto stated, she learned it when she was 9 after she found out I was in ABNU. The Sandame knew I would need some information when outside the village, so he told her what animal it was, and the rest is basic summoning. If you know what animal your bloodline contract was with, you just think of it while summoning. Hinata was given the mission to spy for me and inform me of important matters. Don't be mad at her, Hiyashi, she was just following the orders of the Hokage. So which one does our family have? Inquired Tsunade. Naruto sighed and said, originally we did not have one, but we do know because of Kyuubi. That reminds me, since I am coming clean, I have a few hunches about something. If you all would not mind, perform the hand seals for summoning and think of a fox in your head while doing it, looking at everybody. Why do you want us to do that, Naruto? Tsunade inquired. Naruto paused for a moment and said, according to Kyuubi, the fox contract will only work up to 5 generations of me, meaning your grandfather and his brother, your parents, you and whoever was the father of Dad is, along with 2 generations of him, Dad himself, and whoever is my mother along with 3 generations of her, me and my children, with the only exception being my wife since I got permission from the fox. Odds are Mom and my grandfather are dead, but you never know, and I would like to know if I have any other family left. Jiraiya responded, so you want to know who your grandfather and mother are, huh? Naruto replied, yes. The one thing I learned about the third over the years under him is that he could lie through his teeth and you would never know, so I was thinking if he did something like he did with Granny here, I wonder what else he done. Everyone followed through, and Tsunade, Shizune, and Jiraiya raised a few eyebrows when a small fox materialized in front of them. Tsunade replied, okay, how the hell did that happen? Shizune could be bequests of her uncle Dan, who was the only man I slept with. Innocently, Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head, but that caused many people to take notice because Naruto did the same thing out of habit when he didn't want to say anything. When Tsunade's eyes narrowed, Jiraiya remarked, I can explain. Tsunade. I am listening, she said. Jiraiya elaborated, I was drinking with the Sandame one night and I hanged into Dan to make fun of him, and you walked into the bar drunk and thought I was Dan, and we kind of went into the ally, and you can guess the rest. Then how am I related to Naruto? I had sex with only one person, but it was not Arashi. His name was Miso and he looked nothing like the Yodime. In fact, he was a Chunin, and I am an only child, and my uncle apparently did not have kids. If Jiraiya is Arashi father, Shizune's question made Tsunade angry, but she stopped any kind of attack. Everyone turned to stare at Kakashi when he said, oh shit. Shizune exclaimed. What? Shizune pointed her finger at Kakashi as he changed back into a man with brown hair and brown eyes, who was the same height as Jiraiya. Kakashi made a hand sign and rose in a puff of smoke. Kakashi exhaled and replied, well, you did have sex with Arashi Sensei. Then he used that disguise when he went out on dates because he did not want to be with someone because he was the Yondaime or his money. Shizune continued, but even if that was real, I never had a child. I lost the ability to have children the year because of a rare virus I caught that year the Kyuubi attacked. Naruto, what did Sensei say about your mom? Tightened Tsunade's eyes. After a moment of reflection, Naruto uttered, he said she died giving birth to me. Why? After giving it some thought, Tsunade questioned, what did you mean earlier when you asked did they copy that jutsu or learn it right? When Naruto opened his eyes after closing them, everyone gave him startled looks because a diamond was encircling his eyes. As Naruto closed them and opened his normal eyes for everyone, Shizune appeared to see a ghost. The Sandyami said it was called Digen. He said I was the last who could use it. It lets me copy any hand signs jutsu like the Sharingan, but I can't see a few seconds in the future or chakra pattern or copy genjutsu or taijutsu. I only use it against enemies who use a lot of jutsu I never seen before. If it's some I know, then I don't even bother with it. Inoichi, may I ask you a favor? Tsunade said, casting a downward glance. To which Inoichi replied, sure Godaima-sama. Tsunade replied, can you go and look into Shizune's memories at the ones around the time of the Kyuubi attack and tell me what you find? After glancing at her, Inoichi remarked, only if it's okay with Shizune. What are you thinking, Tsunade-sama? Shizune asked, glancing at Tsunade. Tsunade continued, the fact that he has your uncle's bloodline tells me that he is related to you, and like you said, you are an only child. The fact you lost the ability to have children that year makes me suspicious. You were in Konoha at the time the Kyuubi attacked. I came and got you after the Kyuubi attack. Something's not adding up here. With a sigh, Shizune said, do it, Inoichi. Inoichi nodded, performed some hand gestures, and then entered her head before emerging and landing on his bed a short while later before turning to face Naruto. He glanced at Shizune and said, Shizune, may I ask a personal question? After giving him a quick glance, Shizune said, go ahead. Do you remember how you got that scar on your right breast? He asked, glancing at the ground. According to Tsunade, she got it from the Kyuubi attack. Why? Inoichi nodded his head and said, she got it from the grass-cutter sword. She is Naruto mom, but it appears that Naruto actual birthday is the 9th, not the 10th like everyone thought, and Shizune went into labor after she jumped in front of an attack Orochimaru was trying to hit the Yondaime with. The Yondaime has someone put memory blocks on her so she would forget all about Arashi, and they made her forget everything from the moment she confirmed she was pregnant until the Kyuubi's attack. It was most likely one of my clan, but I could not tell you who since we lost a lot of members in the attack. Naruto grinned and mouthed. After Shizune glanced at him, she gave a nod. Naruto murmured, the plan was for the Leaf Village to befall a natural disaster so that the neutral party would give us more time to pay the fee out of guilt, which they did, but they gave us a new contract and put penalties on the extra time. We have been only able to pay the interest up till now officially, and so we still owe the balance, and our time runs out exactly 18 years from the disaster that hit the Leaf Village. We have less than 2 years left, so I think you all can figure out what disaster it was. Though the original plan was for a wildfire to burn down the old section of the village that was to be condemned after the war since nobody lived there. The Sandyami made it look like fake people lived there in the records with his original plan, but after the Kyuubi attack the official count of the destruction was taken from the fake records, so not as many people died in Kyuubi's attack as everyone believed. We can thank Orochimaru for the attack, but since he's dead it's okay. According to Shino, if Orochimaru had not had made Kyuubi upset, the plan would have worked and then we could have paid the debt off. Naruto gave a nod and stated, the Sandyami and Kyuubi both told me the truth when I was 4 after I received a beating and first met the fox. The Sandyami took time and trained me, and the first thing he taught me was blood clones so it could take my beatings while he trained me, and then put me in ABNU doing A and S rank missions that were all going into an account to draw interest and were completely off the books and help pay for the debt. After the Uchiha mess I had the other 8 Uchiha hide as hunter nins, but since there was no official listing for them all missions I had them do were strictly off the books and went into the account to try and save the village. However, even after 2,000 missions we had only made enough to pay 10% of the debt. According to Hiyashi, exactly how big a debt are we looking at? All of them gasped when Naruto said, $200 quadrillion. How come it's so high? Asked Hiyashi. Naruto stated, when we renegotiated after Kyuubi Danzo assassinated the first negotiator for them and they took offense. They enforced a penalty. I was only $10,000 short of the original fine with all the missions we did in secret. However, with the penalty that was another story. I came up with a plan after reviewing the contract, and until my plans were finalized I could not reveal anything, but I have come up with a way to save the people and citizens of Konoha from slavery as well as all our money and techniques as well as bloodlines, and because of that no matter what I will no longer be a leaf ninja. Causing everyone to scream. What? Dustin questioned. Why is that, Naruto? After giving the truth about Danzo's treat cherry, I went to the lords and asked for a compromise after I got close to the original payment before I became a genin with the rookie 9. They told me they might have a deal if I could come up with something they want. Naruto grinned and said, when I told my wife about the problem after 2 years of marriage when I and Jiraiya visited, she gave me permission as her husband to use something the lords would want. Spring Country itself. Everyone took notice of this, and Tsunade inquired, where is Spring Country and how does that help us? Naruto laughed and responded, Since Team 7 saved Snow Country, they have officially changed their name to Spring Country and have become one of the wealthiest countries in the world because of the new influence of farmlands and other natural resources, since they used to be under a blanket of snow and ice but now have the best farmland in the farmland to grow food and other products. Kakashi inquired, "How does this exactly work, Naruto? Are you just giving them Spring Country to save the village?" "No," Naruto said. "Tazuna has used his engineering skills to create an arena with forests, mountains, valleys, trees, and rivers for the tournament that will take place in the actual Spring Country. Each team has up to 25 members to compete on the 10-mile battlefield. That's where all of you are useful in order for you to understand the situation and accept my invitation to join my team. I wanted to be completely honest with you." "Who exactly are the other teams?" asks Shikamaru. "Everyone involved receives one team, and it appears that Iwa, Cloud, Rain, Mist, Danzo, and myself are forming teams," Naruto stated. "Since 4 of the 5 major powers are involved, the other nations claim they do not want to get involved. You can guarantee deaths because it will be a winner-take-all battle. I have no idea what Danzo will do, but I do know that he knows, and if he prevails, I can guarantee that, with the support of everyone concerned, he will establish himself as the village's leader and turn it into his own." Gaara inquires, "Why was Suna not allowed to get involved, Naruto?" "The Wind Lord decided that his nation had seen enough war and did not want to risk another one, but in reality, I believe he was afraid to confront you about it, Gaara," Naruto remarked. "He still recalls the time you told him you wouldn't have Tamari sleep with his son so he could boast about it and threaten to crush his nuts with your sand if he didn't leave your office. I need all the assistance I can get, which is why I asked you to come as well, Gaara. Even though I detest having to ask friends to fight, everyone in this room has earned the respect of the Sandiami, who is still alive, as well as myself. I currently only have 5 confirmed team members: Itachi, Zabuza, Haku, Sasuke, and I. I'm fighting to win because I won't allow my wife to abandon her homeland for the Leaf Village, and I don't care if I have to kill everyone who stands in my way. If that's all I can get, then so be it. The heads of the clans will need to come watch the battles from the observation decks to determine who will have rights over them even if they are not fighting, and those from the Leaf Village will go to whoever wins, regardless of whether any of you choose to get involved. If my team wins, I will return everything to Tsunade as the Godem Hokage, with the exception of Spring Country itself. This includes my office, which is located under a genjutsu in my apartment. If you take off the toilet lid in my bathroom, you will find a chakra focal point at which to dispel it. My wife and kids and I will be staying in Spring Country." That's all I had to say, and I appreciate your patience, he said as he rose and departed, leaving the room in shock. Kiba inquired, "Who was that?" As she stood up and left the room, Hinata remarked, "That was the real Naruto that he has had to hide because of our village for his entire life." "I'm in," Anko said. "I want to repay Gaki for beating the living daylights out of Orochimaru." In case you were wondering, he was being honest about being Rokademi Hokage, Ibiki stated. In order to select the missions that were too risky for regular Leaf Ninja to perform, such as the assassination of the Lightning Daiyamo 2 years ago, I, as his contact in ABNU, had one of my men review every mission before it ever reached Tsunade. Since that mission was carried out by Uchiha, who is currently known to be loyal to the Leaf, it could not have led back to the Leaf if it had failed or the perpetrator had been apprehended. As he and Anko left the room, he said, "I am following the Rokademi for his final mission." As Jiraiya began to get up, Shizune turned to face Tsunade and said, "I have some grandkids and a son to get to know." Tsunade grabbed him and said, "We need to talk." The two of them departed in a flurry of leaves. As the remaining individuals exchanged glances, Hana questioned, "So what are we going to do?" Ino and Inoichi hit Shikamaru, who sighed and asked, "Why do blondes have to rule the world and be so damn troublesome?" After a brief moment of reflection, Sakura said, "I wonder what village Itachi and Sasuke are part of now with the other Uchihas." This statement caught everyone's attention. According to Tazuna, officially none Naruto has created a village for ninjas who are seeking a place to call home. If they can help protect Spring Country from any enemies, then their country won't suffer the same fate as Wave. Every Uchiha resides there and is content they are not participating in this battle, even though I am aware that there are still only 40 or so ninja. Naruto explained to them that this was the Leaf's issue and that he was completing his task for it. The majority of the local ninja are either too old to do much more than play games and spend time with their families, or they are genins who left their village after their first kills and were unable to cope. The others, like Naruto, are ninjas who came because they wanted a place to be with their families. The village will be governed by 5 cages and is currently referring to itself as the Village of All Elements. 5 cages? How will that work? Gaara inquired. Well, Naruto told me that the cages are separated into the 5 main elements, Tazuna remarked. All of the village's food and health issues are resolved by water. Lightning handles energy and trade-related things like companies and merchants, while fire handles village defense and academy training. Wind handles all out-of-village missions and post-graduation training, while stone attends to all non-ninja citizen needs, provides assistance for all D and C rank missions on the island, and guards the Royal Council leader. What is this Royal Council? Asks Hiyashi. According to Tazuna, Princess Yukie determined that the people of Spring Country needed a government in order to avoid being subject to a tyrant like her uncle. The people agreed to grant the royal family 33% of the council's authority and 1 veto per month on a matter, and they continued to serve as the nation's leaders, which made them happy but sad because they wanted her family to retain some influence. Inoichi responded, then how did she give Naruto the right to use the Spring Country in our problem? None of you have visited the countries that he has helped, have you? Tazuna said, laughing in a way that made everyone feel foolish. He is viewed as a demon, or at the very least, a nuisance, in your village. He is regarded as a hero in more than 10 countries. Because he restored the pride in ourselves that we had lost, my nation named our bridge after him. He demonstrated to them in Tea Country that you can defend what is valuable even when others are attempting to take it away. Because he demonstrated to the people of Rice that the only way to truly lose is to never try, he is seen by them as the beacon of light from which all evil should flee. Despite wearing a chakra restraint in Snow Country, he overcame the former dictator and demonstrated to them that even in the midst of an endless winter, spring can come again if one has courage and compassion. Not only did the entire council agree with her request to do this for Naruto, but all of the residents of Spring Country did as well. It brought them together to express gratitude to him for his assistance. All of you are fools for not recognizing it. He demonstrated his strength even when he was acting foolishly. The fact that Neji fought against him is evidence of that. He then left the room, leaving the group in awe. After a pause, Neji said, he's right, Naruto was already a cage when I faced him, and he defeated me using only a bunshin, cage bunshins, and chakra euro. Which, despite coming from his friend, was no more effective than my own bloodline. My pride would never have learned if he had beaten me at any time. As he left the room with his father at his side, Shikamaru remarked, I wonder if I can get a game of shogi with his kid or the real him, it might be interesting. What are you going to do, Dad? Ino asked, glancing at her father. I don't know, said Inoichi. Shino's father nodded when he said, I am following my Hokage. The two of them then left the room. Hiyashi replied, perhaps we should turn in for the night as it is getting late. As he and his father left the room, Shoji continued to eat his chips. Well, what are we going to do? Kiba asked, glancing at his mother. A good dog never turns on his pack, and I for one don't want that ass Danzo to get control of the village, his mother said, glancing at him. With her brother a few feet behind her, Hana said, you heard her runt, as she followed her mother out of the room. Kurenai inquired, so what are we going to do? As Kakashi put it, you know what I am going to do. Why am I here? Dustin inquired. It's not as though I can manufacture, repair, or fix any weapons. Everyone turned when a voice behind them said, actually you do. Kakashi's eyes widened at the sight of the person standing there. Is that you, Rin? Asked Kakashi. Hey Kakashi, it's been a while, Rin said with a smile. Dustin responded, sorry to break up this meeting, but what is it you were talking about? Rin came over, took out a scroll, bit her thumb, broke the seal, and then pointed to 2 swords and said, I need these repaired for 3 friends. When Kakashi saw them, he stammered, how did you get that? It's my dad's sword. Naruto-sama has been secretly gathering the pieces for you, Rin stated, adding that the other one was the Naidem Hokage's sword. He intends to use it in the upcoming battles there. The final one is for Sakura. Her father's sword was shattered during the Kyuubi attack, my friends, and I now reside on the island. Sakura was taken aback because, although she was aware of the swords, she never imagined that she would ever see them. With a smile on his face, Dustin whistled as he examined the pieces and remarked, this is going to be fun. After giving her a forehead slap, Tenten remarked, you had to do that, didn't you? Lee questioned, what's wrong? Tenten stated, restoring antique weapons is Dad's favorite pastime. He is a child in a confectionery. Then what are we here for, Dad? Asked Ayame. She and her father turned to face the man who entered the room and gave her a hug when he said, that would be to see your uncle Ayame. How have you been doing, Ruban? Her father asked with a smile. It's been 15 years since I last saw you. All right. Naruto tried to kill me for stealing your recipes 2 years ago, but after I told him who I was, he calmed down and asked if I wanted a job. Since then, I've been working in the village every spring, Ruban said, I hoped that you and Ayame would join my wife and me, bring the family together once more. Knowing that both men had a week-long hangover the last time they met, Ayame grabbed them both and said, we will see, let's go talk more privately. With a sigh, Genma considered what to do next. By the time the meeting ended, it was 10 o'clock at night, and Shizune had left to find Naruto and her grandchildren, a lifetime of questions racing through her mind. She had just reached the private area of the ship where she was informed Naruto and the children were when a roar so loud that it could be heard for miles drew the attention of everyone on board, and all of the ship's lights that had been turned off for sleeping passengers suddenly came on, and everyone began to search for the disturbance, which brought back many painful memories for the older generation. Another roar sounded, and a shadow was seen approaching the ship. Tsunade and Jiraiya then materialized beside Shizune and inquired, what's going on? After a few moments, everyone was drawn to that side of the ship, where a giant fox with 8 tails could be seen in blue, along with a figure standing on top of it. The closer the figure got, the more Shizune could see that it was Naruto. Shizune looked out at the shadow just beginning to become visible in the darkness as the spotlights turned onto it and made the outline of a creature easier to see. When Itachi and Sasuke landed, they got everyone's attention by asking, what are you doing here, Naruto? Everyone stared at the figure, who appeared to be Naruto, but upon closer inspection, it was actually Naruto's attractive, non-jutsu body. The figure leapt off the fox's head and descended with flowing grace while wearing a white kimono. Itachi, get that idiot of a brother of mine and get his ass out here, said the female Naruto. It's time, Yukie said, and he had better not be late this time. Sasuke remarked, who has the others, Naruto? As Itachi nodded and departed in a procession of leaves. As she turned to face Sasuke, the female Naruto said, they're with Karen at the Uchiha compound. You took her glasses, didn't you, Naruto, and what the hell are you doing here? Said Naruto, who had appeared next to Sasuke. I instructed you to stay by Yukie's side until I returned. Naruto remarked, listen, fool, I took her glasses, of course according to Yukie, it's time for me to get you there. Do you think I would call Mirana to come here in the middle of the night for any other reason? After going pale, Naruto remarked, but they are not supposed to be here for another week. It's not my fault, Naruto said. Get your ass moving now, I'll keep an eye on Arashi and Yuna. The fox vanished from the water in a cloud of smoke. Naruto, Tsunade knows, and also Shizune and Erosanin are related, so find out from them, Naruto said. Looking around frantically, he leapt into the air and appeared to float as the wind gathered around him. He then began to make hand gestures and screamed, Kachiyose no Jutsu, summoning technique, Kyuubi no Kitsune. Suddenly, a cloud of red smoke appeared, and beneath Naruto, the Kyuubi in all his glory, a Euro, the nightmare of 16 years ago. Kyuubi, said Naruto, get me to Yukie fast, with the words, fine kid, but remember not to call me Aegean until the battles. Kyuubi started to run in the direction of Naruto's appearance. Sakura ran up and asked, what was that and why is Naruto in his sexy no jutsu form? As everyone's eyes widened. Naruto remarked, you suck, Sakura-san, as everyone turned to stare at her. The Kyuubi was there, and I'm not Naruto. After overcoming her initial shock, Tsunade questioned, if you're not Naruto, then who are you? Well, Bakken, Naruto said, turning to face her. I am Naruto, his twin sister. With everyone gaping, Kiba uttered the words, twin. Sakura concluded his sentence by saying, sister. It's good to see you again, Naruto, Ibiki said as he emerged from the crowd. I haven't had a chance to see you since you got better and went away. Naruto turned and said, it's good to see you too, Ibiki-san, in a gentle and kind voice. How are you? As Ibiki put it, good, and you? I've done a great job looking after all of my nieces and nephews, Naruto said. In relation to that, where are the other two? Ino replied, other two? I thought Naruto only had 2 kids, and how is it that he has a twin sister that we never seen before? At that point, Naruto winced and turned to face Ibiki-san, who remarked, Naruto hasn't yet told anyone about you. It makes it a sensitive topic. Well, my stupid brother has his twin Yuna and little Arashi, who is the oldest, she said, nodding. Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Kakashi, Rin, Obito, Sakura, Sasuke, and little Naruto Jr. are also under his care and were born simultaneously. Kiba let out a cry of, what the fuck? That's 9 children born simultaneously. Why did he give those children that name, and how in the hell did that happen? Rin, Itachi, Sasuke, and Naruto were among those who began to laugh, saying, the answer is really simple. He took this action out of respect because, despite the fact that those names belong to people who were alive, they share a common trait. Does anyone know what it is? They all saw the last 3 Team 7s, but I don't understand where they came from, Jiraiya said as everyone turned. He only had the 2 when he was here the last time. Naruko grinned as she said, the little shit of a brother got her pregnant Aegean before he left, and because of Kyuubi's influence she could have them safely. Shizune inquired, what do you mean Naruko, and are you really his twin sister? In a week after giving birth, she not only had her body back to how it was when she and Naruto first met, but it also healed any minor wounds. This is a secret my brother has, Naruko explained. Anyone who receives bodily fluids like blood or gets his special abilities to heal from any wound, and also they restore the body after damage. She shed all of her pregnancy-related fat when I have children. I'm happy I have the same, Shizune Nichan. To answer your question, I am his twin sister. How is Erozanin related to me, and what did he mean when he said we were related? After glancing around, Shizune remarked, I suppose I am also your mother because I am Naruto's mother. Your grandfather's name is Jiraiya-sama. Screaming into the air, Naruko said, no. Kakashi asked, who is arriving that Naruto was not expecting, as he moved forward. Oh, that would be the new kids, Naruko said. He wanted to make sure he was present for this labor because he missed the previous 2. Exactly how many kids is he expecting this time? Tsunade asked, feeling weak in the knees. Just 2 this times, said Naruko. Sakura replied, that's impossible to have that many multiple births like that. Spring countries are not the only thing that is fertile here, Naruko said with a smile, although I don't know for sure. I believe the fox played a role, perhaps it's karma giving him back. Shizune inquired, what was it that Ibiki mentioned earlier? It is when an assassin thought I was Naruto and tried to kill me, or they did, depending on how you look at it, Naruko said, flinching and glancing down at the deck. Would you mind telling Yuna and Arashi, Ibiki-san, that I need to go check on them? After she left, everyone turned to face Ibiki, who sighed and remarked, it started. Ibiki nodded, and they parted to let her pass. Rewind in the Sarutobi compound, where she had spent the previous 7 years living in secret, a 7-year-old Naruko was informed of the truth about her brother, and they spent time together whenever possible. She had a key, walked into Naruto's apartment, and reached for the light switch to turn on the light. When someone grabbed her arm, she felt a sharp pain in her chest and saw a kunai protruding right by her heart. She fell, but fortunately turned just enough so the kunai did not go further, and Naruto had promised to visit her today, but he had not arrived, so she sneaked out and crossed the village to get to Naruto's apartment. Final flashback. Naruto, when he saw his sister on the ground after returning from an ABNU mission, knocked both guys out quickly. He then started to help her as best as he could, but she would die soon. They missed her heart but were close enough that it did not matter. Then how did she live? Sakura inquired. Ibiki continued. The Kyuubi told Naruto of a way to save her by giving his blood to her directly at the wound and pumping some of his chakra into her. It healed the wound enough to keep her alive, but the mental damage was too much for her. She was trapped in her mind in shock, and her body, it took her body 6 years to recover completely because of the difficulty of healing a major organ like the heart. Along with the poison of the weapon, Naruto used a forbidden kinjutsu and put her mind inside the seal while her body was recovering. Why did he do that? Inquired Ino. Ibiki replied, so she could still experience the world instead of the darkness of the coma her body was in. He blamed himself for not keeping his promise about being on time, so he vowed to never break a promise. Aegean. Whenever you saw Naruto use his sexy jutsu, it was when he was giving control of his body to Naruko. It was a way to allow her some freedom to live. The kinjutsu kept her mind anchored to her body, so her mental image changed with her body, so it aged as well. If you notice, about that time is when he quit using the jutsu. After she was back in her body, she used a henge to walk around town until he got married and sent her here for protection. What happened to the 2 men, Ibiki? Inquired Tsunade. Pale-faced, Ibiki questioned, do you really want to know? Yes, Tsunade replied. Ibiki glanced around and replied, Naruto does not know what he did and he asked me never to tell, but it's the only time I questioned his sanity. He made both men swallow a seed. Shizune inquired, that's it? Ibiki nodded his head and said, you don't understand. He made them suffer for a week straight with what he did. He used his bloodline to control the seed's growth and had it go into every part of their bodies, but not enough to kill them. He then had them break the skin at each joint of their bodies. It was deranged watching plants come out of a human body, causing a finger to fall off before the next, then the hands and the arms. It was a slow and painful process. If they passed out, he stopped, and with the plants coming out like they did, they could not bleed to death. After he finally killed them, he sent both bodies back to their countries, one to Cloud and one to Iwa, with a note saying, you missed Naruto and I went easy on them. I'll kill your whole army if you send any more. The white ghost was signed. When he heard the name, which caught everyone's attention, Kakashi fell backwards. What is it, Kakashi? Inquired Jiraiya. Naruto was the white ghost. According to Kakashi, I believed he was merely a myth made up by the ABNU to frighten people. Hiashi inquired, what do you mean, Kakashi? The white ghost was Naruto's codename. Itachi stated he wore a typical black ABNU uniform while he was in the village, but after he left, he turned it inside out to make it completely white. He could kill you with his actual abilities and be 100 yards away before the blood gushed from your body. Not a single drop of blood touched his cloak during the 220 missions we completed together. Ibiki continued, the 610 missions he did after that was also the same, never a drop of blood on him, but his enemies would be covered in blood and cuts. His true speed and skills is amazing and terrifying at the same time. Tsunade replied, that's it. How the hell did he trick nearly the entire village full of ninja without them knowing it? If what you say is true, then he is practically a god of war or something. Ibiki murmured, I have all info on him that I have if you want to go over it, but I think a more private location is in order. I want all of you to come also. I want us all to figure out how the hell he did it, Tsunade said, nodding. Let's start with his early life and work from there, Shizune said as everyone trailed behind her into a conference room. Itachi replied, I would probably be the closest to that. Then I met Naruto when he was 5. He had already been training under the Sandyami and I was skeptical at first, but after he beat me in a fight I learned he was more than what he seemed. Kakashi replied, but you were already an ABNU captain at that point. Itachi nodded and continued, you don't think I realized that he did not just beat me though, he flat out humiliated me. Speed, weapon precisions, jutsu, hand sign speed, taijutsu, and genjutsu. He outclassed me and I attacked with everything I had, and he stated one form of combat and beat me for 20 minutes each form. I laid one hit on him in taijutsu and after that he broke both my arms and 4 ribs. After witnessing Itachi's skill up front, everyone was in a state of shock. Itachi continued, after that the Sandaime put him in my squad under me. The one thing I learned from Naruto and the Sandaime was that if you want to hide something, put it out front. My squad was one of the most famous until the massacre. Yet can anyone tell me the name of the other 3 members of it? No. The reason is because everyone was looking at me because of the fame of a child being in ABNU. No one suspected him being there. We did a total of 220 successful mission, 45B rank, 75A rank and 100S rank missions without a fatality or a single person being hurt. Ibiki came forward and said, it was after the incident with Naruto that I first met Naruto without his mask. Up to then I had no idea. Every day I would see him or his clone in the streets screaming and being annoying, but like Itachi said, the best way to hide something was out in the open. If Naruto walks into a room before today, what would most of your initial reactions have been? Ignore the annoying pest, right? That was his mask. He hid behind nothing he does is a waste. Every action he did is planned out, every move flawlessly executed. Take his match with Kiba during the prelims. Kiba replied, don't remind me, he farted in my face. Ibiki giggled and replied, actually, no he did not. That was a knockout drug he made for kidnapping missions, but he could not pull it out during battle in the village or it would have raised questions. He used a subtle genjutsu to make everyone think he farted while he released the drug into the air in 10 minutes. No matter what, you would have been asleep. He could have beaten you at any time, but he limited his skills to cage bunshin only, and even then he went easy on you. Think of how many he uses daily and ask how only 5 at most would be a difference. Neji replied, then what about my match? I had closed his chakra points and beat him until he drew on Kyuubi's chakra. Ibiki cracked up as he said, that's funny, he used Kyuubi's chakra as a disguise to cover his increase in speed. If he took off his gravity seals, you would have been toast the moment the match began. Guy responded, how much weight does he have on now? According to Sasuke, now or in that match with Neji? Lee yelled, both. Sasuke stated, in the match with Neji he had 65 times normal gravity, now he has 100 times. After giving it some thought, Jia uttered the words, impossible, his body should have been crushed. Neji responded, what do you mean, Guy? How much did he have when he fought me? According to Tsunade, Naruto body weight has been constant of 150 pounds since he was 10 according to medical records, so that means he had 9,750 pounds of weights on. Now he has 15,000. How good is he then? Inquired Hiashi. According to Inoichi, I think we will find out at the battles. After giving it some thought, Sakura posed the question, who is the real Naruto? Naruto entered the room and replied, that's the question, Sakura. Truth be told, he is just a tired warrior who wants to put away his swords. Shoji inquired, what do you mean? Tenten responded, it's an old saying, it means that he wishes to leave the battlefield and live a normal life. If what everyone is saying is true, then that makes sense because he never got to live one before. He was forced to endure beatings as a child, trained to kill before most are taught to read, lived a double life that was neither his real self, and also a village can hate him. I can't understand why he would do it. Naruto said, It's all he had, after everyone appeared to have given that some thought. When the ship arrived at the docks the following day at 7 a.m., everyone was awake and began to descend the ramp. They were taken aback by the prosperity of the harbor town, which appeared to be half the size of Konoha and to have everything in order. Itachi remarked, "If everyone would follow me to the train station," as Tsunade glanced around and guided the group through the village. "Before arriving at the train station we can arrive at the castle in an hour." Naruto had taken both children ahead as soon as they arrived on shore, and Shizune had gone to speak with her but was unable to do so because she was asleep with the children. When she found her after the meeting, no one spoke, unsure of what to say. Sakura inquired, "Hey Sasuke, why did you not return to the village after the fights?" "I brought my fiancé here to live with me since I had my family again," Sasuke said. "I would have been nothing more than breeding stock if I had gone back to Konoha. I went with this since I didn't want that." With a downward glance, Sakura remarked, "So I see you moved on." "Go on, Sakura," Sasuke said. "No matter what you believed you wanted, we were never more than teammates and kind of friends. You never made a sincere effort to get to know me. You destroyed a friendship in an attempt to impress me after seeing my name, wealth, and fan club. I didn't want to be with someone who would change for me." She sighed as he passed her, saying, "I wanted someone who would be themselves." "You really should try and look at it from his point of view," Itachi said, shaking his head as he approached Sakura. After glancing at Itachi, Sakura questioned, "What point of view was that?" Itachi grinned and remarked, "Easy. If no one wanted you for yourself, how would you respond?" As he left her, he said, "Instead, they wanted you for what they could get." After pausing, Sakura remarked, "I was not like that." "Yes, you were," Ino said with a laugh as she sat down beside Sakura. She said, "We were both." Hiashi asked, glancing at Hinata, "So tell me, to what extent have you been concealing this? You appear composed and haven't stammered since the truth was revealed." "If you're wondering if I'm stronger than you believe I am, then you're right," Hinata said with a smile. "All of that was a ruse to get out of the compound and spy on Naruto-sama." Hiashi turned his head away and said, "I see. Then who is actually stronger, you or father?" Hanabi inquired. Itachi, who heard this, replied, "Hinata. No offense Hiashi, but Hinata is probably the only one beside Jiraiya or myself that can last against Naruto for any amount of time if he were to get serious, and that is only from experience mostly as well as skills." Hanabi gave her sister a newfound respect as Hiashi nodded. Everyone could see how gorgeous the country was as the train traveled, and Gaara became tense. She glanced around the cab and asked, "Did anyone else just feel that?" Everyone gave him a suspicious look, and Tsunade questioned, "What?" Gaara remarked, "I'm not certain." When he was drawing on Kyuubi chakra, it briefly reminded me of Naruto, but then it vanished. Everyone looked at one another as Tsunade scowled. When they finally reached the castle, which was within a quarter of a mile of where the train had gone, they noticed a number of people rushing about. Leaping ahead of the group, Jiraiya grabbed a guard and questioned, "What's wrong?" "I apologize for worrying your group, Lord Jiraiya," the guard said. "You weren't supposed to arrive for another hour in case someone decided to flee the castle during the battle. Naruto-sama asked us to practice battle moves. Sir, we would be happy to escort your group in if they could wait for approximately 15 minutes, but please do not participate in the drill. Oh no, the third wave is on its way." Jiraiya turned to see a group of Iwa and Kumo ninjas running toward the bridge that connected to the castle, each with a red sash on their arm. As multiple Iwa nins leapt over the group from Konoha, Jiraiya yelled, "Everyone out of the way and let them pass, it's battle drills." He then leapt to the side. Every Konoha person shifted to the side and watched as men emerged from the forest, using jutsu and grappling hooks to create earth bridges that would allow them to cross. Everyone was watching the attack patterns and plans and was surprised by how well thought out they were as the battle heated up, and they witnessed several defending troops being hit by pressure points and numerous attacking groups going up in smoke. The Kumo and Iwa ninjas all rose in smoke as the alarm finally sounded, and a whirl of leaves appeared on the bridge. Naruto then emerged and uttered the words, "Captains, front and center." A group of 10 men rushed up and said, "Yes sir." "All right. I am proud of the initial defenders for successfully stalling the first wave while alerting the castle to the attack and starting preparation to move the VIPs," Naruto said as he walked in front of them. "Well done, Captains 1 through 3. The 3 men said, "Thank you, sir." Naruto turned and said, "Now on to the second wave." For the most part one was pleased with it. I was however saddened when I saw the east wing was breached and 1/3 of the troops in that area were taken out of the battle either with injuries/dead. This is not acceptable. Caption 5, I want you in Caption 6 on dividing your long-range fighters and close-range fighters, with more going to the east wing. I know that the West Wing was protected perfectly Caption 6, but you also have to understand only Junins would be able to get across at that area of the ravine using several Earth Jutsu, which gives your long-range attackers more time to take them out. The East Wing with a simple Earth Jutsu could be breached by any genin who has had chakra leaping training. We need to make that side more defensible. Caption 4. Use squad's ability to get information from squad 1 through 3, replacing their injured men, getting the wounded to a defendable spot to receive medical attention as well as protecting the medics while having squads 1 through 3 fortify the front entrance was excellent. However, you also had one problem. The medics' supplies were in the wrong area and your men that were having to run and get them was costing time, which results in the loss of lives. Overall, I want you to tell your men that they have improved greatly from the last time I was here and I am proud to have them protecting my family. Naruto paused, glanced at the final 3 captains, and said, "All right, Captain 7. Tell me exactly what your squad's main goal is." The prisoner replied, "To secure the emergency exit for our troops and the royal family." "And where were half of your troops during this battle?" Naruto asked, nodding. "According to the captain, at their jobs, sir." With a nod, Naruto inquired, "And where were you?" With a bewildered expression, the captain asked, "What do you mean, sir?" As he let loose some ki, Naruto glared at him and said, "What I mean is, when your men were doing their duty, where were you?" Naruto struck him with a silencing jutsu and said, "Silence, Captain. I know you want to protect your brother for taking the blame for his mistake, but don't he needs to hear this himself, and his men have a right to know what their leader was doing during this drill." The Squad 8 captain was perspiring and having trouble breathing when he said, "Sir, it was my." Squad 7's captain stated, "I was." Naruto took a breath and replied, "You were with your wife in the broom closet having sex while you should have been at your post ensuring the escape route with your men. I know you are an honorable man, but think about this: if you did that during a real battle and your men had been killed and you decided to protect your wife by having her escape where everyone believes is the escape route but they were all dead, what would happen to your wife most likely?" "I'm sorry, sir, I thought that since this was all a drill, it would be alright," the man said, lowering his gaze. Naruto let out a sigh. "Yes, I understand that, but you put your men, the men of the other squads and your own family at risk by doing that. Your actions, if this was real, could have been the death of everyone here. We each have our own part to do and each has to support each other. If we don't, then all is lost. Now I could give you a punishment for this, but instead I am going to do this. Squad 7, you have heard what your captain has done. If you see no wrong by his action, then he is free of any punishments. If you feel his is wrong and should be punished, you all decide his punishment until you are willing to follow his orders. Aegean, and have him as your captain. I want the vice captain to step in for him as leader of your squad, and your captain shall become the vice captain until he has earned your trust." Another man moved forward as the Squad 7 captain bowed his head and retreated to where his men were. Naruto turned to him and said, "Now Squad 7, you all did perfect. Even when the enemy discovered the escape route, you were not only able to protect it but also eliminate the threat as well as notify squad of your progress. Good job, Squad 8, you were able to secure the queen and her family as well as all the important documents as well as providing backup for Squad 7 when they needed it. I am proud of your squad. Squad 9, your squad performed your duties perfectly by securing all the civilians and escorting them into secure areas as well as setting traps for any enemies. For this I thank you. Now you all have heard what you did good and not on. I want each captain to talk with their squads and try to find ways to improve even more. Aegean, I thank you for everything along with my family. Dismissed. Sorry about that, the ship made better time than I thought it would, so you arrived early. Please follow me inside," Naruto said as he turned to face the stunned Konoha residents as they all saluted him and made their way back to the castle. "Wait, Naruto. What exactly was that?" Tsunade asked. Naruto sighed and said, "During the fall of the castle during the reign of Yuki's father, the castle fell in exactly 22 minutes. In that time only 5 people escaped: Hitaki Kakashi, my wife, 2 guards and the advisor who became Yuki's personal bodyguard over the years before he died when we freed the country. Only reason those 5 even made it was because of Kakashi and his summons. After she took over, she wanted to make sure more of her people could escape should the castle ever fall. Aegean, so I helped her create the 9 squads to protect the castle. Each squad had a duty it has to complete. Every time I came here I would use Cage Bunshin to test them, and the defense time went from 11 minutes when we first started to 3 hours. In 3 hours time, a messenger hawks that are launched by all 3 of the first squads can reach the actual hidden village here that is an hour away and have them send aid. That means that before the castle fell, the enemy would have a counter-attack hitting them and would force the enemy to either retreat or deal with the larger threat, which would allow the evacuation of the castle of all civilians and wounded. That's actually a pretty good plan as long as no one delays the ninja from the village somehow," Shikamaru remarked after Tsunade nodded. Naruto waved his hand and said, "Not possible," as he suddenly jumped high into the air and everyone looked at him and gasped as they saw him walking in the sky, and Naruto took out a kunai and dropped it, and every gasped when they heard the sound of the kunai hitting something solid, and Naruto grabbed it and jumped down and said, "There are 10 of those clear ice bridges from here to the village, all taller than Kyuubi. The nins from the village can run across it and attack them from above and don't have to worry about crossing the actual ground that would slow enemies down, and since the ice is clear, unless you actually know where they are and have the seal on you to allow you to touch it, you could try to land on it all day, and if you did it would kill you without the protection seal." Neat little trick Itachi Zabuza picked up in the mist, and using the basic of Haku bloodline on a seal back in the village makes it a perfect aid for quick travel. "Now let's go inside. I want to see if my children are awake yet," as he started to lead the way. Shizune responded, "Yes, I can't wait to meet all 13 of my grandchildren." Naruto paused, turned around, and questioned, "13? What are you talking about?" Naruto and Itachi both sneered at Sasuke, who quickly stopped talking. Tsunade then remarked, "Your sister told us you had the 2 who were on the ship, 9 more, and the 2 who were being born last night." Naruto hit his head and said, "Damn you guys, listen everyone. You had a joke pulled on you by my little sister. I only have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. She told you I had 9 of them, right? Did she happen to say the names were those of all of Team 7 members?" Sakura responded, "Yes. Why?" As he began to enter the castle, Naruto shook his head and remarked, "Kyuubi has some of the summons training Arctic foxes here to be nin animals, and the 9 foxes that are joked to be my children because of how much time they spend around me when I am here are all named after Team 7. Remind me to kick my sister's ass later." As they entered the throne room, Naruto showed them the 2 children from the boat as well as another boy and girl sitting next to a red-headed woman. Sasuke immediately approached the woman, and as they looked forward, they saw Yukie sitting on a throne with 2 newborns sleeping in her arms. Naruto approached, took one, sat next to her, and gestured for everyone to approach. When they finished, Naruto said, "Allow me to introduce you all to my real children. You already know Yuna and Arashi, who are over there playing with their pet foxes. Over there with Sasuke and Karen are Minato and Haku. The little girl there in Yuki's arms is Ayame, and this little guy right here is Inari. Hello, I'm Shizune, and I suppose you could say I'm your mother-in-law," Shizune said as she moved forward. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Shizune, would you like to hold your granddaughter?" Yukie asked, glancing at her. "If it's alright with you, I would, since I never got to hold either of my children growing up," Shizune said, looking unhappy. When Tsunade was examining the infants when Yukie handed them to him, Naruto looked up and remarked, "Hey grandma, you want to hold your great-grandson?" With wide eyes, Tsunade interrupted, saying, "No, I mean I don't want to intrude." "Nonsense," Naruto said, waving his hand, "come hold him and take care of him." Naruto carefully handed the baby to Tsunade as she stepped forward, and she gave him a small smile. The baby yawned, and Tsunade's heart melted for a brief moment when she realized the warm sensation on her chest was actually piss rather than her heart. "You're going to be trouble, just like your father, aren't you?" she said, giving the infant a fierce look. When the infant smiled sweetly, Tsunade thought, "Heaven help us all." Naruto then showed everyone their accommodations, gave them time to get settled, told them when the meals would be served, and let them explore the castle. After that, Naruto put all the kids to sleep, and while Yukie and Naruto lay down to rest, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune watched them. Naruko arrived a little later, and she eventually got to know her family after Sakura told her about it when she ran into her and after receiving a stern reprimand from her mother and grandparents for the cruel trick. However, the tranquility would not last long because the tournament date was approaching. The Konoha group has been in Spring Country for 3 days. It would be an understatement to say they were taken aback by what they witnessed for the first time. They all recognized Naruto as the strong leader who genuinely cared about his people. They were all ashamed of their treatment of his early life and their inability to recognize the truth. The group was traveling to the elemental village today. Naruto, Ino remarked as they were walking, "I have to know something. How strong are you really?" "Ino, I am strong enough to protect what is precious to me." "That's all you need to know," Naruto said, turning to face the young girl who was grinning up at him while he walked beside him. "If you want to know how many jutsu I know, I would say around 2,000. If you want to know how much chakra I have enough chakra to fight all 3 Sanins and my father in their prime at the same time. If you want to know how smart I am, I could beat Shikamaru in Shoji at least half the time. Not bad for a dead last, huh?" Before Naruto, Itachi materialized as a whirlpool of leaves and declared, "Naruto-sama, the team from Iwa has arrived on the island." With a frown, Naruto remarked, "I see, where are they?" Itachi continued, I have had the ambassador of Thyr country who arrived earlier to get the details of where and when to stay and fight. He is currently leading them to Thyr preparation area near the exam field. Okay, are the detection seals activated yet? Naruto asked, nodding. Yes, Itachi replied. Naruto-sama. Naruto replied, good, if the seals go off I want the all militia to increase security to Thyr villages and have the Black Ops to intercept them and order them back to their area to wait or forfeit their battle. If they attack, spring the security seals and then deliver Thyr bodies to the Earth Lord as well as the other lords, showing how they tried to sabotage the battle. Tell the others to inform everyone the same thing and notify the Hyugas when Cloud arrive, but when Danzo arrives to notify me personally. Yes sir, Itachi said, leaving behind a whirl of leaves. Tsunade inquired, what was that all about? Naruto explained, simple. The area where everyone is staying for the battle is set up with seals buried underground. If they are activated, a prison shield similar to the one Orochimaru used, a giant, the Sandaime, will come up in that area and slowly close in until everyone inside is dead. After a collective gasp, Shizune questioned, is our area the same? Naruto replied, yes, I had no choice in the matter of that because it's the only way I could get the feudal lords to agree to the precautions I wanted was if everyone was treated equal. Now let's continue our trip. We should reach the village in about 15 minutes. They kept walking. Everyone was shocked to discover that the village was surrounded by 5 walls. As they approached it, the outer wall was made of ice, followed by a wall of earth 20 feet away, a wall of wood 20 feet away, a wall of metal 20 feet away, and then another wall that was a composite of all the other walls combined. All of these walls were still moving toward the actual village. Observing the reactions of all, Naruto remarked, oh, the joys of seals. The funny thing about all those walls is the seals on them are all solar powered and recharge every day, and the walls are self-repairing. Jiraiya replied, who came up with these seals? Naruto, I know they were above your skills. Naruto continued, actually, it was about 10 of us who actually came up with these. I was one of them. Zabuza was one. The Sandaime had part of this. He had planned for Konoha walls as well, but the council refused to let him when he approached them after getting the general seal for it from my father. Notes, I must say, counting them, that made 4 of us. Itachi has some knowledge with skill making 5. The other 5 were people who came here and I refuse to speak about for fear privacy. Jiraiya responds with a nod. Well, I am impressed by what I see. 5 walls protecting the village. Each wall has to be breached differently, and the last wall would be nearly impossible for a small group to breach, meaning if you picked the enemy off before they got there or weakened them, then your last wall would stop them. Naruto responded, correct. Well, everyone, welcome to the elemental village. Everyone here knows everyone else, so they will know you're not of the village. When they see you, you can walk around and enjoy yourselves, but if someone asks you to stay away from something or not to go near something, please heed the warning. Bekwase odds, or there are traps there to kill anyone who is not supposed to be here. Thank you. As he grabbed his 2 kids and began to proceed towards a row of houses on the east. Where are you going, Naruto? Tsunade inquired. Naruto stated, see those houses up ahead? It's actually an indoor park where all the children go to play with each other. I was just taking Yuna here to see her friends and relax with my other child. You don't need a tour guide here since the whole village would be willing to help you and watch you. As he continued to walk away, Tsunade saw a hot spring and went toward it, saying, you heard him, but I want everyone to meet back at that indoor park in 4 hours so we can discuss what we see. Remarkably, Jiraiya chose to examine the walls once more rather than visit the hot spring. Kakashi, who had been largely silent since learning of Naruto's title while he was in Anbu, made the decision to approach Naruto as everyone dispersed. Naruto was sleeping on a blanket beneath a tree when he discovered him, and he also noticed his daughter playing with some other kids. Can I sit down? Kakashi asked Naruto as he approached him. As long as you don't wake the little one, I don't mind, Naruto shrugged. Kakashi asked, are you really the white ghost? While nodding. And if I am, said Naruto. Look, Naruto, I won, said Kakashi. Do you know why I was put on your team in the first place, Kakashi? Naruto asked, raising his hand. No, Kakashi replied. Naruto stated, because for a man who quotes look underneath you fail more times than most when it comes to personal relations. Did you know we did an Anbu mission together and you never knew it? Blinking, Kakashi questioned, really, when? Naruto replied, remember about 8 years back when he would put an outpost on the border of Fire Country and he was hiding it as a village? According to Kakashi, Ventika right? Naruto responds with a nod. Yes, remember the 2 extra men who were assigned to your team who supposedly died on that mission? Kakashi nods as Naruto continues, we didn't die. Abra Uchiha and I were the 2 who were assigned. We used your mission as a cover to get into the village, and while your squad went and attacked the village drawing attention to you, I assassinated the ambassador from Kumo who was there at the time to discuss a war pact. I then had Abra go and infiltrate Kumo disguised as the ambassador, and he was the one who stole Kumo's forbidden scroll. Kakashi remarked, so why fake your deaths? Naruto replied, no paper trail, dead men tell no tale. When you returned and told the Sandane we were presumed dead, he marked us off as Black Ops, and so nobody knew of us. As you know, Black Ops don't get put on the memorial stone for 3 years, and by that time you had forgotten about it. The perfect way to get by under the watchful eyes of the village. After scowling, Kakashi remarked, so my team was expendable on that mission. Naruto replied, no, your job was to attack the village and make it look like Kumo was responsible with your Chidori attack, making it look like it was them that stopped them from agreeing to another meeting for at least 2 years. Taking a deep breath, Kakashi remarked, I am not used to seeing this side of you, Naruto. Naruto raised his hand and replied, don't worry about it. After all, when this battle is over you won't be seeing me any longer since I am staying here with my family. As Kakashi put it, you know the council won't like that. With a deadpan expression on his face, Naruto said, you know the council can kiss my blonde ass, right? Kakashi had to laugh at that one. Despite his best efforts to keep it in, Naruto was the only one with the courage to say that. Naruto glared at Kakashi and uttered the words, I told you not to wake the baby up. As his fist struck Kakashi, sending him flying across the field and into a tree, unconscious, just as the baby had just woken up, crying, to the sound of Kakashi laughing. As he rocked the infant, Naruto remarked, there little one, the big bad pervert's gone now. Tsunade and the others arrived to find Kakashi twitching while he was tied to a tree by vines. He had bows in his hair and makeup all over his face. Everyone started laughing because, although it would have been nice for most people to finally see Kakashi's face, his current state was too much to bear. When the baby began to cry again, Yuna, who was lying on the blanket next to her father and younger brother, looked up and asked, does that mean I can play makeover with them also, daddy? As she gave Naruto the even more powerful little vixen eye no jutsu. In a matter of seconds, Naruto broke and said, go ahead. As the vines caught all of the Konoha visitors off guard, Yuna grinned and slammed her hands into the ground. She then walked over with a scroll, bit her thumb, and ran it across it. A ton of makeup and bows appeared, and she exclaimed, who has the first appointment? The evil smile on her face made everyone go pale. In the elemental village, another week passed quickly as promised. Naruto gave the Konoha group permission to explore the village, and they all discovered aspects of it that they liked. In addition to talking with a few other people about matters pertaining to the impending battle, Naruto had been spending time with his wife and kids. Dustin had finished both the Kakashi Chakra Fang and the fabled Raijin. Naruto received the Raijin from Tsunade. While Kakashi retained his father's sword, Sakura was frequently spotted sparring with Zabuza, Itachi, or Kakashi after her father's sword was finished. In relation to Itachi, Sakura has been spending a lot of time with him recently. After much introspection, Sakura finally spoke with Sasuke and his fiancée copyrighty Karen, and she bestowed her blessings upon them. Itachi sought solace from her after she granted them her blessing and departed, and they have remained essentially inseparable. Rewind. Sakura responded, and I want you to know, Sasuke, that I am sorry for taking so long to grow up, and I am glad to see that you have found someone who makes you happy. I hope we can still be friends after all of this. It was Sasuke who said, I would like that, Sakura. Sakura grinned and walked out of Sasuke's house when someone said, it seemed to be a good time for closure, huh? When Sakura saw Itachi, she looked up and replied, yes. As he walked alongside her, Itachi asked, so what do you plan to do now? Sakura replied, I don't know, I chased after Sasuke so long I feel lost. Looking up at the sky, Itachi remarked, perhaps you just need a guide until you find your way. That's corny, how could someone guide me when even I don't know my, Sakura said, glancing at him. Itachi kissed Sakura on the lips to silence her, and as he withdrew, he remarked, perhaps you're going my way. When Itachi noticed Sakura's stunned expression, he put his arm around her and began dragging her away, saying, let's go eat, I'm hungry. Finish the flashback. Rin and Kakashi have been hanging out together, and Rin described how she met Naruto when he was traveling with Jiraiya for training. As Shizune has been spending time with her daughter and son, Tsunade and Jiraiya have been spending time with their great-grandchildren. After a sparring match between Hiashi, Neji, Hinata, and Hanabi, Hinata shocked the other three by giving them all their asses. Rewind. Hinata stood in the center of the three, saying, I still think I am weak. Neji, Hiashi, Neji, and Hanabi were all on the ground, panting. Hiashi questioned, what was that attack? After Neji swallowed and shook his head no. Hinata grinned as she remarked, Oh, just something I came up with while dancing on the water. Finish the flashback. The Ino, Shika, Cho groups have been conversing and practicing for both generations. For the most part, the others enjoyed their time in the village and looked around. Everyone is now on the eve of combat. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief and began to speak. Alright everyone, I have put this off long enough. I have received word that Danzo and his men are here on the island now. He has 25 men as well as another 25 as his own personal escort reign, and Kumo have both arrived as well, so it looks like it's only going to be only the 4 teams instead of the others. Apparently the other superpower has decided not to get involved. I asked you all before to think about it and now I need an answer because the battle begins tomorrow. Who among you will be willing to fight on my side? I have Itachi, Sasuke, Zabuza, Haku, and myself. I can have up to 20 more. Stepping forward, Tsunade declared, I'm in. According to Jiraiya, so am I. Sakura stated, it's not going to be much of a team 7 if I don't fight also. According to Naruto, I am fighting. Naruto replied, no you're not Naruto, you may be able to fight but I need you to protect Yukie and the kids for me. I don't trust Danzo. According to Kakashi, team 7 united again, so I am in. Well, that's 9, Naruto said. According to Gaara, my sibling and I are in. According to Naruto, thank you Gaara, that brings us up to 12 inches. I'm with you, Hokage-sama, Hinata said. Hiashi responded, Hinata, I would like to join myself but I think I will instead stay in the spectators' seats and keep an eye on Danzo for you Naruto. As Naruto put it, I thank you for that, Hiashi. Guy declared, my flames of youth burn brightly and I will follow your orders. Guy-sensei. Lee added, I will as well. Lee, Guy said. According to Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy said. According to Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy said. As everyone stared at him, Naruto slammed both of their heads together and exclaimed, finally, so how many does that bring us up to? He asked. According to Neji, counting me makes 16 inches. So anyone else, said Naruto, nodding. If my teammates are in it, so am I, Tenten stated. Enko said, I'm in Gaki, and Naruto nodded. Ibiki replied, I would like to but I am not in as good of shape as I once was. Sitting behind the desk in the torture cells. I will also help Hiashi keep an eye out for anything suspicious. According to Naruto, well, that's 18 inches. The 3 mutts are with you, Naruto-sama, Tsun remarked. According to Naruto, so that makes 21 correct. Shikaku replied, the original Ino Shika Cho team would assist you and our children will aid should Danzo try anything during the battle. Naruto remarked, very well, anyone else? Shibi replied, I will be your last member. Naruto-sama, my son will aid the other heirs along with Ibiki and Hiashi in keeping an eye on Danzo and his men. He can mark them each with a female in case Danzo tries to break the rules. Naruto smiles and says, I thank you all and I want you all to know I am grateful for all the help and I hope we all come out of this battle alive. In order to do this though we need a plan because we have 75 other people who will try to kill us, so any ideas? Shikamaru said, well, as he assumed his contemplative stance, grabbing everyone's attention. The preparations for the battle the following day then started. The following day, the sun had just risen, and we saw 99 people standing on the ground, ready for battle, facing a wall with a spectator box atop it. Inside the box were a number of feudal lords, Princess Yukie, Naruto, and 10 guards. Danzo and a number of men wearing Chunin and Junin costumes were positioned on the right side of the stands. A man wearing a solid white cloak and a white Anbu mask without any eye holes appeared in front of the 99 people. As the Fire Lord stood up and before he could say anything, a yellow flash appeared on the ground. I apologize for being late, but it looks like another party wants to get involved in these matches, the person said, bowing. After glancing at the Anbu, the Fire Lord questioned, who are you and who is this other party? The Anbu removed his mask and said, I am Naruto Namikaze, codename White Ghost and retiring Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha. Sir, as for the other party that has requested to enter the battle, sir, it would appear to be a group consisting of missing nins being led by the who appears to be Orochimaru. A number of people recoiled at the leader's name, and the Fire Lord remarked, but Orochimaru is dead. Everyone's attention was drawn by laughter, so Naruto put his mask back on and pulled his cloak back over his head before approaching the Konoha group. Everyone looked where the laughter was heard, and to everyone's surprise Orochimaru appeared and said, it's so nice to see you again Naruto-kun. I have finally taken over my former subordinate Kabuto body and now live again. I heard about this little tournament you had here and decided to bring my own into this battle as well. Of course you have to recognize me as group of potential investors, feudal lords, because should you not, then my men would be glad to start a new village in your countries like I did in Rice Country. In fact, that's what I plan to do with Konoha after I win this battle. Think of all those test subjects. Kukukukik. As Naruto walked next to Sasuke, he clenched his fist and uttered the words, "I should have killed the bastard when I had the chance." Naruto replied, "Take it easy, the bastard just gave me a chance to scare the shit out of everyone with the Hiraishin in my codename. I got the entire island on high alert right now, so watch yourself." "Very well, Orochimaru, I don't know how you're alive again, but you are allowed to enter as well. Please take your spot while I explain the rules," the Fire Lord said after speaking with the other leaders after Sasuke nodded. As he stood there, Orochimaru said, My Tsunade, Jiraiya, I must say that age has not been kindly to either of you." His men were all dressed in the shinobi clothing of the Sound Village, and you could not tell anything different about any of them. I wonder if the rumors that your great-grandchildren possess Mukudan abilities and that you two are the parents of the Yondaime are accurate. If so, perhaps they could also serve as my test subjects. As a number of people wanted to murder the snake bastard, Jiraiya restrained Tsunade, who remarked, "I will kill you before you ever get near my family, bastard." With a laugh, Orochimaru remarked, "We shall see, Tsunade." The Fire Lord said, "Enough talking everyone, now the rules are simple. Each team has 25 people. It is 8 AM. You have until noon to prepare. At noon the ceasefire that has been in effect since you arrive will end and you will fight until your team is killed, your team surrenders or is captured, and you are put in one of the holding cells surrounding the battlefield. If you are captured you cannot escape until the end of the battle. If you surrender and put yourself in the holding cells you cannot change your mind and return later. Once inside the holding cells you also will not be harmed by anyone else either. This battle will continue until either one team is all that is left. As long as one person remains on a team, then the team still continues. You may use anything and everything at your disposal, but you will not be allowed to leave the battlegrounds that is encircled by these walls. There are cameras all over the battlefield allowing us to see what is going on. That is all. You may go." All of them vanished in an instant. Danzo remarked, "That was quite a surprise." Ibiki and Hiyashi, who were close to him, said, "Yes, it was." Ibiki responded, "So how does it feel to know you were responsible for our situation, Danzo?" Danzo looked at Princess Yukie and remarked, "I like it. I am finally going to get everything I wanted, everything." Ibiki turned to look at Hiyashi, who used his bloodline to follow as many people as he could before terminating it when they were too far apart. Orochimaru reflected on the events of the previous few days as he made his way to the location his spies had told him about. Rewind. Orochimaru said, "So tell me, Danzo, why have you showed up at this time?" as he stood in front of a group of deceased root members. "I have a proposition for you that I believe we both would find beneficial," Danzo said as he emerged from the shadows. He held out the grasscutter's sword and Orochimaru said, "And what is that?" Danzo replied, "How would you like revenge on the Kyuubi brat, Konoha, and your former teammates?" "Interesting, and how would you arrange this?" Orochimaru said. Danzo produced a scroll and threw it to Orochimaru, who grasped it, opened it, and started reading. His eyes lit up with rage as he read, and he said, "I see, I will agree then." "Good," Danzo said. As he killed off several root members and injured others, Orochimaru said, "Oh yeah, I forgot." He then vanished and reappeared in front of Danzo, who was stabbing him with a grasscutter. Orochimaru said, "You shall be the first to die in my revenge. Of course you will still serve a purpose to me." Then, as a coffin rose from the ground, its cover came off, and Danzo emerged. Orochimaru started to sigh and slam his hands into the ground. As he inserted a kunai into Danzo's back, Orochimaru remarked, "Yes, you shall serve me well since I already knew all of this and more." Kukukuku. "What are your orders, Orochimaru-sama?" Danzo asked, kneeling. And Orochimaru grinned. Finish the flashback. Orochimaru was thinking, Soon I shall have everything I want, including the perfect body and my revenge." Kukukuku. After Naruto and his group reached the spot they had chosen to use as their staging area, he asked, "Anyone?" After surveying the area, after activating their bloodlines, Itachi, Sasuke, Neji, and Hinata declared, "No, we're clear." Naruto nods, grabbing everyone's attention with the words, "Who the hell was that back there?" "What do you mean, Naruto?" "That was Orochimaru," Sakura inquired. Naruto replied, No, it wasn't his smell was wrong to be either Orochimaru or Kabuto. It's like he's wearing Orochimaru face like Orochimaru did that rain nin back in the Chunin exams. Sakura. Sasuke replied, I agree, the chakra level was too low for Orochimaru. Whoever that was not Orochimaru. For example, Tsunade said, so what are you saying? According to Naruto, I am saying that the fact that someone is impersonating Orochimaru means the real one is somewhere close by or that we have someone else pulling the strings. Shibi replied, I have placed bugs on their team and there is something off about them. My bugs don't like their chakra. Jiraiya remarked, so what should we do about it? As Naruto scowled. Naruto stated, we continue as planned. I want everyone to avoid Orochimaru army. For now we deal with the teams as planned and then reform to work on Orochimaru. Tsunade, you take your team to deal with the Kumo. Jiraiya, you take your team to deal with you. I will take my team to deal with Danzo. Men, remember, no one plays hero. I don't want to add anyone else to the memorial stone before I retire. That is an order. All of them grinned and replied, yes sir, good, so how long we have now? Said Naruto with a smile. According to Itachi, 25 minutes. Okay everyone, take one kunai and if you run into something you can't handle throw it, then just hold on, I will be there to help as soon as possible. Naruto said after nodding and taking out a scroll. After he unsealed it, a roll of Triprong Kuniyas emerged. Everyone took one after glancing at him. Neji came forward and replied, Naruto, I must ask something. When we fought in the exams and you said you would change the Hyuga clan, what did you mean? With a grin, Naruto said, Hinata, would you mind? Hinata turned around and lifted her hair off her neck, saying, not at all Naruto, he meant this. When they all gasped, Neji questioned, what is that? Hinata let go of her locks and said, it's a new seal that I want to put on the entire clan. It protects the bloodline without subjecting half of them. It was a compromise I asked Naruto to put into effect should he ever have to reveal his true position. It was the cost for me being his spy. Naruto replied, my father originally designed it and I tweaked it later. Only downside is you can't transplant an eye like Kakashi. He was frowning. I see, thank you Naruto-sama, Neji said. Naruto replied, don't Neji, I am just Naruto. I hate formalities, especially to those I consider friends. Naruto sighed and said, all right, everyone, divide into your teams, keep an eye on your backs, and let's kick some ass. Neji nodded. Naruto exclaimed, that's the cue, as he heard an explosion in the distance. As smoke filled the air, Naruto, Itachi, Hinata, Sasuke, Jiraiya, and Tsunade all started making hand gestures and uttering the phrase, Kuchino's no jutsu. Kyuubi, Gambunta, Katsuya, Mamba, the new snake boss, Lancelot, the falcon boss, and Atlas, the raven boss, were standing there when the smoke cleared. Naruto said, all right Shibi, which way are our targets? After the bosses exchanged glances. Shibi replied, the Kumo team is to the north, Danzo team is to the west, Iwa are to the south of us, and the rain nins are. If that's strange. Naruto questioned, what? Shibi replied, Danzo, Orochimaru, and the rain nins are all now in the west, but they seem to be waiting. Naruto looked at him and said, Jiraiya and Tsunade, proceed as planned. Kyuubi, head west. Itachi, Hinata, have you summons take flight and look for easy prey. You heard him, Atlas, go ahead, Itachi said as Hinata put it, go Lancelot. Let's go, Gambunta, it's time to rock and roll, Jiraiya said. Kyuubi jumped away as Gambunta pulled out his pipe, blew smoke at him, and uttered the words, I still don't like you. Anko, the Ino, Shika, Show Group, Neji, Kakashi, and Hana trailed behind Jiraiya and Gambunta. For example, Tsunade said, Katsuya, follow Mamba. Sasuke replied, Mamba, I want you to dig a tunnel to the north big enough to allow Katsuya to follow when you surface anyone with a Kumo headband as lunch. Katsuya trailed behind Mamba as it shook its tail and plunged into the earth. Sakura, Hinata, Sasuke, Kiba, Tamari, Kankuro, Gaara, and Shibi were the next to jump in the hole after Tsunade. With a sigh, Naruto said, all right, let's follow Kyuubi. Tenten, Lee, Guy, Zabuza, Haku, Sume, and Itachi were behind Naruto. As this was going on, Danzo, who was in the spectator box, said, tell me Hiyashi, why are you really here? I mean, surely you could be of more use on the battlefield instead of up here. Ibiki, I can understand, but you are not here for any reason I can see. Hiyashi stated, I am here because I do not believe this should be taking place here and now. Danzo remained silent while observing the scene on the monitors and thinking, it's almost time. Jiraiya soon saw the Iwa nins while clinging to Gambunta, but something wasn't right. Jiraiya didn't realize what was wrong until Gambunta leapt into the air once more. "Oh shit," he said. Katsuya emerged shortly after. Tsunade Mamba had just exploded through the earth after detecting the Kumo ninjas. When Tsunade noticed something that alarmed her, she noticed that the Kumo ninjas were all gathered together as Mamba charged at them to get his food. "Not good," she said. As he smelled the scent of the group of ninja he was approaching, Kyuubi howled into the air across the field, thinking, "Yes, finally a chance to feed again." When Naruto, who was following him, noticed that Kyuubi had stopped for an unknown reason, he ran up his leg and leapt on his head, looking and thinking, "Oh god no." Smoke abruptly burst from the area in 3 different locations around the arena. Nearly 1,000 Iwa nins were standing where Jiraiya was when the smoke cleared. Tsunade was surrounded by nearly 400 Kumo nins who were all staring at her as the smoke cleared. Naruto went pale because he saw 200 root members, 400 rain ninjas, and nearly 400 sound ninjas standing on the remains of a summoning circle. Orochimaru was standing there, and he said, "You lose, Kyuubi brat." He reached up to his face and pulled it away, and Naruto went wide-eyed when he saw Danzo. As his twin sister's chakra flared, Naruto thought, "No, my family." When he finally realized what had happened, Naruto felt chilly as he saw Danzo standing there. "Kyuubi, lunch." Naruto closed his eyes, thinking, "God, please, whatever happens here today, please protect my family and friends." A tear fell from his eye as he opened them. Naruto saw the enemy ninja charging at him. Then, as 1000 Kage Bunshin materialized, Naruto clasped his hands together and uttered, "Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." With a copy of the Raijin in hand, each of them charged at the approaching nins. Naruto turned and ran back toward the group of people who were pursuing him. As he got closer, he yelled, "Fall back, it's a trap." As everyone halted, turned, and began to follow him, Itachi questioned what happened. Looking over his shoulder, Naruto declared, "It's a trap. Danzo is here, and Orochimaru is back in the stands. They summoned about 1,000 sound, rain, and root ninjas, which is why so many ninja were gathered together. We need to regroup. Itachi, get your summon, find Tsunade, and have them fall back to our startup location." After that, Naruto bit his thumb, ran through the hand signs, and slammed them to the ground, calling forth Gamatachi. "Gamatachi, no time to explain." Naruto said, "Get the pervert and tell him to back off. Please, it's a trap. Let's meet again where we began." Rain, Danzo, and Orochimaru have formed a team. After giving Naruto a quick glance, the toad vanished in a cloud of smoke. Making up his mind, Itachi said, "Atlas, head for the elemental village now." He hopped on the back of the raven he had summoned and flew into the air toward where he saw Katsuya, where he could immediately tell what was happening even with his Sharingan at a distance. The raven changed course and began to fly in the direction of the elemental village. Atlas turned and flew in the opposite direction, and Naruto, who was running with the rest of the group, scowled even more. Sume then remarked, "Naruto, I can smell them closing in on us." "I know," said Naruto. "Kyuubi's chakra is almost depleted, and my Kage Bunshin have already been destroyed." "What should we do, Gaki?" Zabuza inquired. After giving him a quick glance, Naruto declared, "Zabuza, it's time for zero visibility. Take action." As he changed course and left the group, Zabuza smiled and said, "Come on Haku, let's go." "What is he doing, Naruto?" Sume inquired. "Here, I have home field advantage," Naruto declared. "We must move quickly," he said, veering off course from Zabuza's location. When Gamatachi showed up, he and Jiraiya were standing atop Gambunta, who had just ignited the toad oil combo. "Hey, bro told me to tell you to fall back," Gamatachi said. "It's a trap. Rain, Danzo, and Orochimaru have formed a team." "It is worse than that," Jiraiya stated as he seized the small toad and leapt off Gambunta's head just before he was consumed by smoke. It seems that Iwa has also joined in. The moment Jiraiya saw his team approaching, he sprinted in their direction and shouted, "Retreat." When Jiraiya said that, everyone was taken aback. They all turned and fled when they saw the boulders sailing toward them from where he had come. Sakura came out of the tunnel just as Tsunade jumped in and yelled, "Fall back now." Tsunade saw the Kumo nins appear and said, "Katsuya, when I get in the tunnel, destroy it and try to take some of them out if you can." As Mamba attempted to consume as many of the Kumo nins as he could, Sakura became enthralled upon seeing the nins and followed Tsunade back into the tunnel just before it was destroyed by Katsuya, who had started spitting acid at them. As the Konoha ninja and the Queen's guards prepared to engage in combat, the smoke cleared from the waiting box, and the 25 root ninja were replaced by 25 sound ninja, with Orochimaru standing where Danzo had been. Laughing, Orochimaru commanded, "Now, bring me the queen alive and kill the rest." His men rushed forward while flashing through hand signs and wiping blood across the scroll. Naruto assumed a fighting stance, grabbed a scroll, and bit her thumb. She then slammed the scroll into the ground and uttered the words, "Kaichios no Jutsu." Foxback. She was covered in smoke. There were 36-foot-tall foxes surrounding her when the smoke cleared, and she yelled, "Kill the sound nins." The sound of the ninjas sent the foxes running. After thinking, "Thank God Naruto planned for this," Yukie bit her thumb and wiped blood across a seal on the underside of her chair arm. Suddenly, a shield barrier appeared every 10 feet, cutting off people in different sections. Some of the sound nins were not as fortunate and ran into the shield, which instantly burst into flames, but the charging foxes stopped instantly. Orochimaru laughed and remarked, My, it appears that my behavior was somewhat expected. Whatever the case, these shields won't hold me for long, and then you and your kids will be mine. Queen." He started making hand signs, but after a few seconds, he slammed his hand into the ground, causing the shield around him to fall, so he moved over and started over. The feudal lords appeared alarmed for a moment before being enveloped in smoke, which halted Orochimaru's actions as he observed people vanishing in smoke and then vanishing once the smoke cleared. He scowled as he glanced around and noticed that the queen was using a scroll to continuously wipe blood off of everything, and each time she did so, the people in that section would vanish. "I see," he said, "each section is made to let you evacuate them if necessary." "Amazing," he said, starting to work even more quickly. When Itachi landed on his raven in the elemental village, people started to rush toward him. "What's wrong, Itachi-sama?" a man named Murma asked. "Get the village ready," Itachi said. "Exams have been compromised. Get out of the castle and get ready for the VIP to be called in." As he took off to warn the other ninjas in the village, Murma said, "Sir, yes sir." Itachi scowled and started preparing when a group of sound ninjas landed in front of Zabuza and Haku. As they were running, one of them exclaimed, "Well, what do we have here? It looks like a bitch and a wannabe swordsman." Zabuza turned to face Haku, who chuckled as well and said, "Go ahead, Zabuza-sama, I'll look after these guys." As he started to leave, one of the sound nins went to intercept, but before he could do so, Haku appeared in front of him, kneeing him in the stomach and saying, "I am your enemy now." Zabuza said, "All right Haku, but don't take too long." As each of his 4 teammates launched an attack, the nin gasped for air. 2 of them started making hand signals, one charged with a kunai, and the 4th with a sword. When the person with kunais tried to stab her, Haku pretended to be motionless and substituted herself at the last second with the person who was still having trouble breathing. The man was immediately stabbed in the kidney by the kunai, and as he began to slowly and painfully die, he fell to the ground while being held at his side. Haku grabbed him by the neck and broke it from behind, causing the person who had stabbed him to be stabbed in the back before he could react. The closest nin was killed, and one of the 2 who had completed their hand signs searching for her was wounded when Haku exploded and ice shards flew out of her body. The sound nin smirked until he noticed that she was bleeding water instead of blood. The injured person yelled, "Where are you, bitch?" "Behind you," said Haku. A kunai implanted itself in his head before he could turn around. When the other sound nin finished his jutsu, he saw Haku snap his fingers and say, "Sonic Scrambler no Jutsu." As soon as Haku exploded into water, the nin yelled, "Shit Mizubunshin." He went to stab the ice mirror that had formed in front of him with a kunai when Haku materialized and uttered the words, "You cannot touch me in here." "But," as she hurled senbons at him, killing him by striking him in the heart. Haku exited the mirror and started in the direction Zabuza was going. "All right, everyone listen," Tsunade said inside the tunnel. "Apart from the fact that Kumo seems to have called in a sizable number of their ninja to attack, I'm not sure what exactly transpired. We must be their targets. I suppose we must figure out how to remove a sizable number of them and alert the others." The sand began to swirl in Gaara's hand and take the shape of an eye, so he sat down in a meditation position and held one hand out while holding the other over his eye. Gaara crushed the eye, and the sand flew down the tunnel. The Kumo ninjas were using various jutsu to blast the area up at the entrance where Katsuya had destroyed it in an attempt to clear it so they could start chasing. As he glanced around for a few seconds, one nin grabbed his eye and said, "Damn dust in my eye." Gaara got back into the tunnel and began to walk back the way they had come, saying, "Go, I will handle them." "But Gaara, you can?" Tsunade said. "He's right, Gaara has the best chance to stop them and live, or at least hold them off. We must warn the others." "Come on," Kankuro said, shaking his head as he started to run toward the location of their first camp when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Tsunade scowled and began to follow him, but as she turned around, she noticed Gaara, who appeared both serious and disinterested. Jiraiya struck an Iwa Nin in the face with a Rasengan. While Shikaku was using his shadow to break the necks of Iwa ninjas, Shuza was already in his expanded body form, standing over 60 feet tall as 10 men turned against one another and hurled exploding tags at their partners before taking their own lives. Inoichi grinned. Kakashi swung his chakra fang through 2 Iwa Nins while screaming, "White Chidori!" Before attacking another group, 4 drills bore through 30 Iwa Nin, paused long enough to reveal 4 Hana, and then let out 4 shouts of Gatsuga. When Jiraiya heard multiple screams and saw several snakes fly over his head, he ducked under another attack. An Iwa Nin attempted to attack from behind, but Jiraiya saw him sneering and nodding before stabbing him in the neck. All they could see as Naruto killed anyone who stood in his way was a yellow blur from the Raijin in his hands as he moved through ninjas Lee and Guy, who had both removed their weights, were running parallel lines from him. Tenten was perched on top of Kyuubi, who was throwing weapons at anyone who approached the Biju King while they were trading tales with the ninjas. Anyone attempting to board the Kyuubi in order to reach Tenten was being attacked by both Sume and her companion. As he dodged to the right of a root member and cut through the neck of a rain nin, Naruto thought, "Come on Zabuza, hurry." In order to bring spring to this nation, Zabuza ran to the Rainbow Glacier, where the generator was powered by the hexagon crystal. He walked past that machine and hurried to a newly installed one. "Let's have some fun," he said, reaching up and pressing a button. A siren was heard in the distance, just as the Kumo ninjas had breached the area where they could pursue the Konoha shinobi. They all turned to see what appeared to be an avalanche moving in their direction. As he dove into the tunnel, the Kumo ninja leader yelled, "Hurry, into the tunnel before we are buried." Since the springtime country weather had been unpredictable, everyone else was terrified and jumped in after their leader. They then started running down the tunnel, and after almost 700 yards, it abruptly went dark. Someone then lit a flare, and everyone turned to look around when a chilly voice said, "Welcome to your graves." Desert quicksand. The walls then exploded forward, and the men were surrounded by rushing sand while some men began to move toward the other end of the tunnel. Others screamed and turned to flee the way they had come. However, as the ground gradually closed in on them, they soon learned the terrible truth: they were going to be buried in a 1,000-yard section of the cave that had been completely sealed off. Some attempted to use just you, which accelerated the collapse of the walls. Gaara was panting and thinking, "Who said you need a demon to be a mass murderer?" As cries of rage and pleas for mercy reverberated inside the cave, which was becoming quieter by the second. When a warning siren sounded, grabbing everyone's attention, Kakashi, who was panting from using so many jutsu, saw a white mass approaching and swiftly passed them. "Hello my bitches. 8 points larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, and heart now, which will be my attack points," Kakashi said, his eyes widening for a moment before he grinned and put a soldier pill in his mouth. Screams reverberated through the fog that now enveloped the area. When the sirens sounded, Naruto was panting and yelled, "Kyuubi, silent killing." White mist shrouded the field as Kyuubi's roar reverberated throughout it. A voice said, "Welcome to hell boys and girls, I am your host the White Ghost. Tell Shinigami I am going sending him a group discount today." When the voice finished speaking, the field fell silent. Smirking, Naruto pulled up his mask long enough to swallow an Akamichi soldier pill. His chakra returned as he swallowed it, closed his eyes, and listened to the sounds around him. Then Naruto screamed, "Kyuubi now," and started making hand gestures. When another roar erupted, the surrounding white mist was blown away, and Naruto completed his hand signs before declaring, "Taju Kage Kyuubi no Jutsu." As everyone turned to face Kyuubi, 20 other Kyuubis appeared, and they all started running around the field, stomping on as many ninjas as they could while screams resounded throughout the field. After about half an hour, all of the Kyuubis had either been removed or had run out of chakra. There were bodies all over the place, and Lee and Guy were seated next to Naruto, who was now supported by a tree while Sume was sweating and massaging her companion's fur. Tenten was perched above their tires, saying, "I have not fought that hard in year. How many do you think survived?" Itachi has hopefully secured the village and Yukie has evacuated the VIPs, but for the time being, I am concerned about the other 2 teams, Naruto stated. "I estimate that about 300 members of our group are still present. I saw Hinata's summon vanish during the battle, so she must also be out of chakra." Everyone tensed when they heard someone cough, and then someone said, "Calm down, it's this, Gaki." Naruto turned to see Anko holding Kakashi, who appeared to be about to pass out, while the others appeared extremely exhausted. "Where the hell have you guys been?" inquired Naruto. "Shut it, kid, Jiraiya said Iwa called forth an enormous number of their ninjas. I heard someone else say, Kumo did as well. The same here, said Naruto with a frown. A sizable crowd was also called here by rain, sound, and Ruti looked around and saw that the Tsunade group looked the best, but everyone was exhausted. There should be more than 300 from our fight still around, he said. I think about 200 of us are still around, Jiraiya remarked with a frown. They withdrew once we began to massacre them. What's the plan, Dobi? Asked Sasuke after giving Shibi a quick glance. Naruto said, any info from you colonies? Shibi paused and remarked, Itachi and the VIP are in the village right now. The ninjas I tagged appear to have either retreated out of the walls or are dead. That's all I have. We need to make it to the village, Naruto said, nodding. Tsunade inquired, what about the castle? As he rose slowly, Naruto remarked, no, it has been abandoned. With a frown, Jiraiya questioned, why? The same reason you all believed we should go there, Naruto said. He began to move in the direction of the elemental village, saying, it's defensible, but it has one major flaw that only someone who knows the inside of the castle would know. Sakura inquired, what's that? After examining them all, Naruto paused and remarked, it's not able to keep supplies for a large group of people over a few days. He then carried on walking. Shikaku remarked, so you mean that should anyone defend it they would starve to death if they were to be trapped inside? After everyone appeared to pause and consider. Naruto attempted to get everyone moving by saying, exactly, now let's go. When the group arrived at the village's gates a few hours later, all of the Konoha shinobi were taken aback to see about 600 nins guarding the walls. Naruto grinned and remarked, just because the village only has a small number of people inside does not mean all our forces are in one location. How is everyone? Itachi asked as he emerged, tired. How are our people? Said Naruto. Itachi stated, all villages have been abandoned with the emergency response plan and everyone is in the village walls. My summons have counted nearly 500 enemy nins still here on the island and they have taken over the castle. With a nod, Naruto inquired, what of the VIPs? Itachi replied, all safe and sound. The queen was able to use the seal shield to get everyone here. Orochimaru is the one behind this. What of my family? Asked Naruto. Nodding, Itachi stated, they are safe in the fortified shelters with all the other civilians. Naruto replied, good, see to it that our men are rotated so they don't burn out. Our group needs some rest and resupplied. Bring up the real village. As he vanished in a whirl of leaves, Itachi said, yes sir. Tsunade inquired, what real village? Everyone noticed that there were towers among the buildings that could be used to attack ground-based enemies when a whining sound was heard as the ground split and multiple buildings rose. When 20 men in white Anbu outfits kneeled, Naruto greeted them, saying, welcome to the true hidden elemental village. It would be an understatement to say that all of the Konoha nins were caught off guard. Then Jiraiya said, how? Spring Country is not just the most fertile country in the world. It is also the most industrial as well. We have Yukie's father to thank for that. He spent the entire country's treasury researching ways to make it spring here. In doing so, he discovered a lot of other things that make the true hidden village you see before you reel. Naruto began to unseal items from a scroll that one of the 20 white Anbu threw him. Because I had a feeling something bad was going to happen. I had the village hide itself in the underground hangar. It was so you and anyone else who would be looking at the village would not deem us a threat until this whole mess was taken care of. Now report. Naruto finished putting on a new shirt and his cage robes, sealing the last of his battle cloths into the scroll. The person who dropped the scroll said, all preparations are complete sir. Our entire force is ready to move on your orders, and as we suspected they took over the castle to use as a base of operations. All civilian have moved into their second homes here in the village and all security is ready should we be attacked sir. We have already activated the secondary defense seals around the island. Naruto replied, good, get everyone here checked out by our medics and treated and then have them moved to my estates so they may rest. Where are my wife and children? The individual replied, they are safe and sound at your estates your highness. Naruto responds with a nod. Okay. It's time to lick our wounds for now. Tell all the VIPs that I will meet with them first thing in the morning. For now we wait and let the enemy set themselves in the castle to defend it. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will give orders for battle. Dismissed. 10 of the 20 men departed in a flurry of leaves after saying, sir, yes sir. The other 10 approached the Konoha Shibabi and said, please follow us to the hospital. As all of the Konoha shinobi began to pursue the 10 men, Naruto turned to leave for his estate. Yukie embraced Naruto as soon as he arrived home, giving him a passionate kiss and a firm embrace. When they heard giggling, Naruto and Yukie turned to see their 2 older children standing there. Naruto dropped to his knees and extended his hands, and both of his children rushed to embrace him. Yukie inquired. What happened? Naruto replied. It was a trap. I don't know it all, but it looks like everyone was working together to take us out. Gaara took out all of the Kumo nins that came and the rest of us took a huge chunk out of the others, but they have taken over the castle now and luckily everyone I brought are all safe but tired and wounded. They will be here in a little while. The two kids turned to play in the room after Yukie nodded and remarked, it's good you planned for a double cross of this even if it was on this wide of a scale. Naruto replied, I know, I thought maybe an extra 50 at most. I had to use most of the island's defense systems that we had installed here activated to turn the tide. If it were not for our boss summons, we would all be dead right now. The enshrouding mist from the second generator at the Rainbow Glacier, the secondary defense seals making it where each section of the island is devastated so only this village and the castle can be damaged. The actual revealing of this village true looks as well as the VIP defense grid and summon seals in the VIP box around the battlefield. This is why I hate fighting, too many things to worry about and try to outthink. I am tired. I know, dear, just a little longer and your duties to that village will be over. You can rest here after this is over and be with me and our children, Yukie said, with a sorrowful smile, to her husband. Yukie said, I guess one of them are hungry. Come on, you can change the diaper if that's what's wrong, as she helped the baby stand up after hearing him wake up and cry. Naruto chuckled and remarked, the story of my life, always dealing with the shit. Oh, you big baby, I had to deal with the other four most of the time, Yukie said with a smile. With a slight flinch, Naruto said, I know, look Yukie. When she broke the kiss that had silenced him, she said, I know, I understand, and it will be okay now. Come on. I hear the other one now also. Naruto follows her after nodding. When the Konoha group arrives a few hours later, they start to walk through the house and discover Naruto standing in front of a fireplace with Yukie by his side, his arm wrapped around her, and the two middle-aged twins sitting on a blank table next to them. The two older kids are on the couch behind them, and a crib with two sleeping babies is a few feet over. They all had to smile at that scene, no matter how hard they looked for it. Hello everyone, please follow me and let them sleep. I will show you to your rooms, Itachi said as he emerged. Sakura questioned, Itachi-kun, why are you here? I mean, do you live here? As everyone started to follow. Itachi replied, no, I came by to give a report to Naruto-sama, but he was passed out back there, and since I sensed you all arrive, I decided to help him out. After Sakura nods, Naruto emerges in front of Itachi and yawns, saying, okay, what's up? They are all separated into separate rooms to rest. While returning from the place where Naruto and his family had been sleeping, Itachi noticed that Naruto was holding one of the babies in a rocker. Realizing that it was a cage bunshin, he said, I came to tell you that Orochimaru has discovered the shield that prevents them from getting to the rest of the island. Naruto said, okay, anything else? While nodding. Itachi reflected and replied, yes, the Black Ops have finished going through the rest of the sections and eliminated all the remaining nins that were trapped in each shield section of the island, so we don't have to worry about any other nins besides those at the castle. I gave everyone a guest room for you since you were all asleep. Also, I should tell you your sister has a crush. After shedding a few tears, Naruto exclaimed, really, who? Lee, Itachi said as he continued to burp the baby in his arms. Naruto said, Lee, okay. Did not see that one coming. Oh well. Naruto face failed and went up in smoke. After Itachi nods and disappears in a flurry of leaves, Naruto utters the words, you can come out now, Sakura. As she approached his location, Sakura emerged from the shadows and inquired, how? After shrugging, Naruto remarked, Itachi and I both sensed you. What's up? Well, Sakura uttered, I want to know something. After moving the infant, Naruto questioned, who are you? With a slight smile, Naruto remarked, I was wondering when one of you would ask something like that. Naruto glanced at his son and the rest of his family who were dozing and said, to answer your question, Sakura, I am Naruto. A father to my children, a husband to my wife, a brother to my sister, a leader to my people, a king to this country, a son to Shizune, a grandson to Jiraiya and Tsunade, a teammate to you, Kakashi, and Sasuke, a friend to many people, a hero to many people also, and an enemy to those who would hurt those I care for. That is who I am, Sakura. Does that answer your question? Naruto said, Sakura, if you want to understand what I mean, answer me a question first. Why did you become a ninja? After Sakura had given it some thought. Sakura stated, I wanted to prove I could to my parents and Ino. Later it was to get Sasuke attention, and finally it was to save everyone. With a nod, Naruto asked, do you know why I became a ninja, Sakura? Sakura nodded her head and replied, because I did not have a choice. Everything in my life has been forced on me to be everything I am today except for those things I told you earlier. My title of Hokage, The hate the village had for me, killing, stealing, starving, everything I know in my life has been forced on me until I was nothing but a shell. Finally I started to make friends of my own. I later became a leader. I then became a lover and husband and father. It all started with a simple moment in my life. Do you know what the simple moment in my life that changed my life was? Sakura. Sakura replied. No, Naruto stated. It was the day a stranger walked up to me as a 6-year-old child on the street and said 2 simple words that meant more to me than all the glares, hate, and all the other negative things I had to live with in my life. Those 2 simple words were thank you. That was the moment I realized no matter what I had to endure in life, that I would endure it just to show that man that his thanks was appreciated. Sakura shed a tear when she realized how a seemingly insignificant thing could have such a profound impact on his life. She finally got a glimpse of the true Naruto at that point, and she realized why he was who he was and why he simply wanted to leave and be with his family. She turned and walked away after saying, "Thank you Naruto for everything," with a genuine smile. After rocking the infant to sleep, Naruto grinned and said in a whisper, "So, do you think all the ones listening got their answers, little one?" Before putting it in his mouth, the baby gave a good job sign with its thumb up, and Naruto couldn't help but smile. Naruto was viewed differently by the majority of Konoha residents that evening. The next day Naruto walked into his office and saw all the feudal lords and the VIPs, and Naruto said, "Sorry about the delay to see you all, but after the battle yesterday I had no choice but to recover from it and see to the treatment of my people. Now to bring you all up to speed, currently Orochimaru, Danzo, and what is left of the Sound, Iwa, Rain, and Root members are in the castle on the island here. Our island security has made it where the rest of the island beside the castle and this village will not be involved in anything else, and the threats of loss of life in those other areas is 0 since everyone has been removed from them. I have received reports that spies from the unified force has been trying to determine the defense of this village, but they have all been silenced. Now I know this is not what you all had planned, and neither did I, but it appears as if those countries do not care about the contract that was agreed on, as well as what any of you say. I know you're worried about your safety, but you are all safe in this village. I plan to deal with the threat at the castle beginning shortly after I leave here. Do any of you have any important questions?" "Yes," said the Fire Lord. "How did such a large force arrive here?" Naruto said, "When the actual battle started they waited until our group approached them, and they had used the ceasefire to draw huge summoning circles, which would have to have had a matching summoning circle wherever those teams were originally at, meaning for each of them to have done that all at the exact time and way means they planned this from the start and were prepared in advance. The only reason my team were not instantly killed were because of the strength of my team as well as our ability to summon. I say close to 700, give or take 400 men have already died. Anything else? Is there any way to negotiate a ceasefire?" inquired the Lord of the Vegetable Country. Naruto replied, "Tell me, if you believe you have a large strike force, a fortified defense position, as well as having personal issues against most of the people you were fighting who were smaller in number, wounded, tired, and caught mostly unprepared, would you be willing to accept a surrender, or would you rather just take them out so they can never show up?" Aegean. Once Naruto said, "Okay, you have been brought up to speed. I will do everything I can to end this quickly and allow you to return to your normal lives. Now, if you would excuse me, I have work to do." The lords all knew the answer and fell silent. When the lords had all gone, Jiraiya, who had shed his invisibility cloak, remarked, "You are a great leader, kid." "Yeah, but I am tired. How is everyone holding up, Gramps?" Naruto sighed. With a laugh, Jiraiya remarked, "Good, for now. How about yourself?" Naruto replied, "I will be fine soon. So is everyone ready to fight Aegean?" Speaking solemnly, Jiraiya remarked, "Yeah, but they are also tired like you." Naruto replied, "Yeah, but it will be over soon. Tell me, Gramps, how long do you think it would take the summons to recover?" "I don't know," Jiraiya scowled. "I know they are most likely still injured." "Why?" Naruto got up from the chair he was sitting in and began to walk away, saying, "Nothing. Just thinking. I guess the only way out of this is to get it over with." "All right everyone, it's time to deal with those who have come here to destroy us. Elemental Ninja, you are to stay here and protect the village. This is not your fight. Konoha Shinobi, I need 3 volunteers to aid me," Naruto said as Jiraiya followed him to the location where all of the village's ninja, including the Konoha Shinobi, were. The Konoha Shinobi were taken aback by Naruto's request for just 3 volunteers after initially believing that this sizable contingent of ninja would help them. "Oi Gaki, what the hell are you thinking?" exclaimed Tsunade. Although Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Gaara are not available, Naruto stated, "I only need 3 volunteers to assist me because I need them to carry out the second part of my plan." "I am in Dobi," said Sasuke. Sakura remarked, "So am I." "Why not?" Kakashi said, continuing to read his book as he moved forward. So it sounds like Team 7 is reunited again, Naruto remarked. Tsunade replied, Kid, I am not sending any of my ninja to do anything until you tell me what's going on. Alright, my plan is straightforward. Naruto sighed. I want you to go first, Tsunade, and lead a group of people who can protect you and Gaara long enough for you to use your strength to blow up the bridge leading to the castle. I want Gaara to use his sand to make the enemy retreat back to the castle while you're doing that, so they'll have to defend from the castle when you destroy the bridge. Well, that's simple enough, but then what? Tsunade asked. That's where my team comes in, Naruto stated. As you can see, the castle is situated in the center of a huge chasm, so I have a method to make them leave. So you plan to destroy the castle? Asked Tsunade. Naruto replied, Nope, even better, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. Fine, at least the plan is simple enough and should work, but I don't like the idea of this, Tsunade sighed. Naruto reassured them. He handed a scroll to Jiraiya, who opened it, looked curiously, and said, Alright Gaki, but I don't like it. Now, Gramps, when the time comes, I want you to do what is on this scroll and you will know when the time is right. That's what Naruto said. Trust me. A few hours later, Team 7 was utilizing every bit of cunning they possessed to navigate an underground cave. Naruto had presented his plan to Team 7, and it would be an understatement to say that they were taken aback. Naruto was more fox than anything else, demonstrating his cunning with his plan, and now they were navigating a cave. About 40 minutes later, Naruto, who was leading the group, raised his hand and instructed Sakura to go to the right tunnel, Kakashi to go to the left, and Sasuke to follow him down the middle tunnel using the Team 7 hand code. After exchanging a final glance, each member proceeded down their own tunnel. Tsunade sighed and said, All right, everyone, you know the plan and Team 7 should be nearing their objective. As the church bells in the elemental village rang to indicate that it was 3 p.m. Keep in mind that time is of the essence. We only have one chance to make this plan work, so everyone must leave. As they started to move in the direction of the castle, blurs were all that remained of where they had been. After 15 minutes, Sakura entered a torch-lit room inside the cave and saw a seal engraved on the floor. She checked her watch to see what time it was and thought, 10 minutes, as she entered the center of the seal. Reading his book while perched atop a seal, Kakashi thought, just 10 minutes. After they reached another fork in the cave, Sasuke grabbed Naruto's shoulder and yelled, Be careful and come back to your family alive. Naruto pointed to the left, and he began to move to the right, ignoring the one in the middle. As the two men went down their own tunnel, Naruto nodded and mouthed, Thank you. Like Kakashi and Sakura, they soon discovered rooms illuminated by torches. They looked at their watches and said, 5 minutes. When Tsunade and the other Konoha shinobi returned, she noticed a group of about 50 ninja approaching them. Before she could respond, sand flew past her and headed in their direction. When a massive cloud of sand began to fly toward them at unfathomable speeds, the ninjas prepared to fight after hearing something approaching and spotting a sizable group of ninja approaching. They began to move out of the way of the sand when a massive fireball erupted through it, followed by a shout of Kamaitachi. The sand immediately split apart as the wind rushed toward the men, carrying the fireball and making it 10 times larger, killing almost 30 of them as they tried to decide what to do as the sand began to circle around them. At that moment, there were multiple cries of bloodrun. 2 werewolves with a male appearance and 6 with a female appearance charged at the remaining nins, slicing through them like a sword through silk. Despite the chaos surrounding them, the main group kept charging forward. 2 green blurs flew past Tsunade, who was taking position to intercept the men, as the shouts of the men had alerted another group of about 15 men who were about to depart from the first group. The blurs repeated the phrase, Springtime of Youth. As her troops passed the green blurs and agonized cries, Tsunade thought, That's Hana, Kiba, Sume, Lee, Guy, Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi. Genma, Iruka, Itachi, Gaara, and Temari are the only ones left. Jiraiya and his group will soon start their assault from the castle's south. At that precise moment, 4 watches inside the cave beeped, and each member of Team 7 channeled chakra into their hands by cutting both of their hands with a kunai and plunging them into the seal they were on. After hearing from one of his subordinates about the attack on the group, Orochimaru, who was sitting on the castle's throne, said, So they have begun to move. He then burst out laughing and ordered, Send out half of our forces to intercept Tsunade and her army. When Orochimaru saw the 4 figures disappear from the room, he thought, Soon everything will be mine. All 4 members of Team 7 appeared as 4 puffs of smoke burst into the throne room, and Naruto exclaimed, So I was right, Orochimaru is here. My Naruto-kun, I see you have grown up and started a family, Orochimaru said, initially shocked to see the intruders laughing as he finished. His tongue slithered out of his mouth. Tell me, when can I give your children their gifts? He said. You know what to do, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi, Naruto said. I own Orochimaru. After giving each other a nod, the three members ran toward the walls on either side of the room and used chakra to ascend them to the ceiling and then out onto the roof. As they left, Orochimaru remarked, follow them and stop them. A number of blurs hidden in the darkness started to follow the members of Team 7 up the wall. Today you die, boy, but don't worry, your children will live on as my next vessels, Orochimaru said, grabbing the grass cutter after Naruto activated the Raijin in his hand and opening his mouth to let a snake emerge. When an explosion was heard and both men charged at each other, Naruto began to slowly circle around Orochimaru, who had stepped off the throne, and he also began to circle. A few moments earlier, as the three surviving members of Team 7 ran for the castle's 3 pillars up on the roof, 6 blurs appeared in front of them and out from behind. When Sakura saw the faces of 2 root members, she narrowed her eyes, cracked her knuckles, and charged at them, who both rushed to meet her. As he pulled up his height and started making hand signs, Kakashi noticed that Danzo appeared healthier than before and that his arm had recovered. He said, well, this should be interesting. Danzo and the other root member who was with him also started making their own hand signs. With a bored expression, Sasuke gazed at Sai's and another root member's faces before bringing his Sharingan to life and declaring, today is the day you die, traitor. As he swiftly drew a tiger, Sai said, bring it, Dickless. Sasuke then started flashing through hand signs, grabbed his wrist as a Chidori appeared, charged the unidentified root member, and stabbed him through the heart before Sai stabbed him in the back. Sasuke's kunai, which had an exploding tag on it, barely missed the tiger but exploded, destroying the painting. As he exploded and Sai exploded into paint, Sasuke grinned and said, say boom. Sasuke and the real Sai got into a taijutsu duel. With both of their swords on the floor across the room, Naruto shot airballs at Orochimaru and ducked the fireball that Orochimaru spat at him. Orochimaru moved to avoid Naruto's claw strike to his back as Naruto emerged behind him. Naruto then exploded into a pool of water after Orochimaru gave him an elbow to the ribs. At that moment, the water transformed into a shark and attacked Orochimaru directly, tearing him in two before Orochimaru melted into mud. The sound of flesh on flesh reverberated throughout the room as Naruto and Orochimaru engaged in head-to-head combat. Tsunade was almost at the castle when a siren sounded inside, and she saw multiple chakra signatures leaving the building at once. As she proceeded toward the castle, she inhaled deeply and thought, please Jiraiya, be on time. Should I begin now, Tsunade? Asked Gara. Gara scowled after seeing the chakra signatures as well, and Tsunade shook her head no. Jiraiya and his group were following Tsunade as she ran across the ice bridges Naruto had shown them when they first arrived at the castle from the south. He scowled as he heard the Hyuga reports on Tsunade's group each time they encountered group after group, and then he felt the chakra signatures in the castle start to disappear. Okay, it's time, he said, as each Hyuga summoned a falcon the size of a horse and leapt on the bird's back, except for Hinata, who actually jumped on Tenten, and all 3 birds took off into the air. Jiraiya saw the castle approaching and noticed explosions on top of the castle as well, and he thought, I hope your plan works, Gaki. When Tsunade's group had just emerged from the forest's tree line and saw men rushing toward them with nearly 100 nins already across the bridge, she exclaimed, Gara, now. The men were forced to halt their charge when the Gara sand erupted once more, creating a massive wave that was moving in their direction. As exploding tags rained down just a short distance from the group of men who were charging north to attack Tsunade, everyone looked up to see 3 birds essentially gliding in a spot in the air as kunais rained down with tags, making any attempt to escape that way a death trap. The men were forced to start running back inside the castle when they saw the sand charging toward them and the exploding death cutting off their escape route. As soon as Jiraiya learns of what is happening from Hinata, he immediately calls forth Gambunta, and the other Konoha ninjas accompany him, leap onto the toad's head and rush in the direction of the castle. Because Sakura used her father's sword to cut off her last enemy's head, she was able to use her super punches of death to largely destroy the castle's roof. She then dashed in the direction of one of the 3 turret towers, which was her goal. It took a suicide run into the sword to be able to hit the boy, and Sasuke could feel the blood entering his lunges. He used one of the few medical jutsu he had copied from Kabuto to heal the wound enough to stop the blood flowing in, but he would be sick and weakened until he could get proper medical care. As he ran for his tower, he had to get to Sasuke coughed up blood as he removed the sword in his rib that Sai had run through him as he killed the boy with a Chidori. Kakashi was having a great time. He easily cut off Danzo's arms and legs after slicing the Rutanen up. Now, he was sitting in the tower with Danzo's body, watching as Sakura and Sasuke made their way to their tower, chopping off Danzo's limbs whenever they began to grow back, and Danzo yelled, "I hate you, Kakashi. The feelings are mutual, but I have to admit that this is almost better than Icha Icha Paradise," Kakashi remarked as he cut the growing arms and legs once more. He said, "It's a great stress reliever." As it got close to the palace gates, Tsunade ran over and kicked the bridge with all her strength, destroying it as she leapt back from the falling brick slabs that fell into the chasm below. Gaara's sand had formed a wall on the bridge, slowly pushing toward the castle gates, and the enemy nins were backing away from it because they had no way to jump over or around it because it blocked them. This was merely a competition to see who had the most jutsu, and inside the palace, Naruto and Orochimaru were trading just like it was free music downloads on the internet, killing anyone who happened to get close. "I must say, boy, I am impressed," Orochimaru remarked. "I would use you as my vessel if it weren't for the Kyuubi," he said, hurling a mud dragon at Naruto. When Naruto's watch began to beep, he grinned and remarked, "Hubby, guess what? Time's up," he said, slicing the dragon in half with his sword of wind before sprinting back toward the throne room from which the battle had started. As Team 7's watches began to sound up in the towers, Kakashi exclaimed, "Damn, playtime's over." After severing Danzo's head with his sword and observing that the body was not regrowing due to the destruction of the talisman, he got up and snatched the bell from the tower and struck it with the ringer. When the silence subsided, all three bells rang together one final time, producing a very distinctive sound. Sakura took that moment to strike hers, and it sounded different than Kakashi's. Sasuke then struck his, too, producing a distinctive sound. After landing at the remnants of the bridge entrance, Gambuta inhaled deeply and blasted as much water as he could in the direction of the castle. Everyone could see what appeared to be a dome beginning to form as the sound waves from the bells struck the water, grabbing and shaping it. As more and more water was added, the water continued to form a dome, and Haku, who was on top of Gambuta, started using her bloodline to turn it into ice. Jiraiya was screaming, "If you know any Suiden jutsu, use them now and aim for the castle." As the bells rang out in the castle across the island, Queen Yukie sighed and said, "And so winter returns." She took the hexagonal crystal out of the generator, and as she did, a chilly wind swept across the land, causing snow to start to fall on the ground just as she had done when she had started the generator years earlier, and it had immediately warmed the island. It was now reclaiming it in the same way. Orochimaru slithered as quickly as he could after Naruto as he ran as fast as he could into the throne room, and as Orochimaru broke through the ceiling that blocked his escape path, Naruto ran up the walls and onto the roof. As Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura all leapt onto the summit and took off, the three enormous falcons circled the tower and swooped down by each tower. "Boy, why retreat now?" Orochimaru said. "Afraid of me," he said, attempting to understand what was happening. Naruto started to run toward the castle's edge, but Orochimaru interrupted him once more. As he looked across the island and saw the snow reclaiming the island, Naruto thought, "Shit, I got to get out of here before it's too late." After retrieving the grass cutter while pursuing Naruto, Orochimaru said, "Now boy," and withdrew it from his mouth. "Whatever you have planned will fail, and you will pass away here today." As he continued to back up, Naruto remarked, "You will die here today, Orochimaru, and nothing you say or do will stop it." "What is that, boy?" Orochimaru asked, noticing a sudden change in the corner of his eye as the land turned to snow. Orochimaru pursued Naruto but stopped before he could jump off the roof and turned to face him, who had his hands out beside him and was now falling straight into his death in the chasm below. Naruto grinned and said, "The cold hand of death, snake." He then turned and ran as fast as he could, leaping into the air over the chasm. Orochimaru turned to try to understand what was going on and thought, "Foolish." As the wave that was reclaiming the island hit the castle, Orochimaru heard a whining sound and turned to see Naruto wearing some sort of black armor with two rocket wings on his back. Naruto smirked before flipping Orochimaru off, and everyone outside the castle could see that the dome that was encircling the castle was now falling into the chasm below as it stopped moving. "Hey snake, ever wonder why this country was always winter no matter what in the past before spring came here a few years back?" Naruto said, dodging out of the way as Orochimaru threw a snake from his sleeve at him. He then watched as the ice dome fell into the canyon below. Ignoring Naruto, Orochimaru started making hand gestures as he shot high into the air. Naruto retorted, "Because the entire LS land is nothing but one giant self-contained freezer." The rocks supporting the castle started to get covered in ice as it moved up the walls all the way up, and a seal appeared glowing the instant the ice dome struck the chasm floor. All of the men inside the castle started to scream as the wall of ice passed by the floor, and the walls inside the castle started to glow as hidden seals started to emerge. Orochimaru summoned a giant snake on the roof, and Naruto was sitting on the snake's head when it tried to bite him. Naruto saw the ice wave hit the roof, then moved to where the summon was, moving up the summon, making it scream in pain. Orochimaru, realizing what was happening for the first time, leapt off the snake's head, which was frozen solid, and grabbed Naruto's leg with his tongue, saying, "Now boy, I will kill you." A snake emerged from his mouth and began climbing his tongue toward Naruto, who was flying higher and higher into the air. As he continued to ascend, the snake approached close enough to hit Naruto. It then positioned itself on Orochimaru's tongue, opened its mouth, and let the grasscutter fly out before diving in Naruto's direction. "Now I have my revenge, master." Orochimaru heard a voice in his head about Kabuto say, "Your mind has been getting weaker and weaker, making you overlook obvious things, and now you die by my hands." As Kabuto's spirit vanished, Orochimaru suddenly realized how he had been ignoring the danger, and he saw the snake strike toward Naruto's heart and Ibiki asked, "What's happening?" As the Konoha shinobi saw the chasm light up outside the castle for some reason, and ice started to move along the support that held the tower up, making its way up into the castle and incapacitating it in snow and ice. The chasm was filled with the sound of people screaming inside. "It's the reason why there's always snow here before," Itachi said. "The founder of this nation buried a seal in the canyon. This island was only a volcanic island. Prior to that they invented a seal to prevent the volcano by freezing the entire island. But they made a mistake in doing so. When the generator was turned off, the entire island began to freeze again because they were unable to prevent the seal from freezing it." Turning, Tsunade questioned, "However, what?" Itachi remarked, "One of the children fell off the bridge from the castle you just destroyed when Naruto was here the last time before he knocked his wife up the third time. In a desperate attempt to save her, Naruto leapt off the bridge and used Kyuubi to soften the impact of the fall below. Kyuubi was stuck and immobile when he landed. Naruto noticed that the seal was glowing. It turns out that Kyuubi knew someone who could tell Naruto where to go and who knew the island's secret and the seal. I take it that this someone was a demon?" Tsunade inquired. Itachi replied, "Yes, a small demon named Shiva who can control ice and snow and has visited this island previously. After traveling from her home she gave Naruto a book that described the seal she had discovered here in her investigation, which is how we know its history. Naruto used it to learn about the seal's second ability, which is what we just did." Before a snake appeared and Naruto flew in front of it as it started to freeze, Tsunade saw the three falcons flying near them to land. Orochimaru then used his tongue to catch Naruto as they began to fly higher and higher. "And exactly what is the second feature of the seal?" inquired Jiraiya, who had been paying attention. "If the volcanoes ever erupted again, the seal can have ice and chakra, which is one of the few common jutsu that the people who settled here knew to use," Itachi said, observing Naruto flying higher. By freezing the castle, it would protect it from the lava, but the sole issue with that is. As she watched the snake break and fall to pieces, Tsunade remarked, "It freezes anything in the castle as well, living or not." Sakura inquired, "What is Naruto doing?" As Itachi nodded, "Is there anyone who can see him?" As everyone stared in shock with a mixture of fear and hope, Hiashi said grimly, "He is extremely high and Orochimaru has a snake summon who has the grasscutter in its mouth ready to strike Naruto, resulting in both their deaths." As the snake plunged toward Naruto in the sky, he gasped as it struck his heart, and Orochimaru cried out, "No!" He saw the engines cut off and they started to descend. Orochimaru thought, "Well, at least I took the Kyuubi brat with me," as they fell. When the Konoha shinobi heard that Naruto had been stabbed, they all screamed, and as the two began to fall, Sasuke yelled, "Hinata, summon another falcon, quick." Hinata's "No" made everyone stare in shock. "Why? He's going to die if we don't save him," Sasuke said as he rushed over to grab her and start shaking her. As Orochimaru and Naruto fell into the chasm, Hinata grinned and said, "No, he won't." Look, everyone else, with the exception of Hinata, ran to the edge of the chasm and screamed for Naruto. They all gaped and glanced back and forth between the two falling shinobi and the man who was sitting there, who had red hair, violet eyes, and a smile on his face. They noticed that he was sitting on the wall, looking down at the two people who were eating a bucket of popcorn. He said, "Great show, huh?" And so, Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha and Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, dies, killing Orochimaru and saving the village, the man said as the two bodies struck the ground below. He turned and got up, walking up the side of the chasm and onto the top of it. The noble king of Snow Country, Naru Kazuhana, asks all those who witness the death of such a noble man to be silent as to where the hero of Snow Country was buried so he may rest for all eternity, he said. With tears in her eyes, Tsunade asked, Naruto, are you okay? I apologize, Tsunade-san, but did you not hear that Naruto Uzumaki just passed away? The man said, I am Koyuki Kazuhana's spouse, Naru Kazuhana. Seeing someone you care about pass away in such a manner must have caused you all emotional distress. I apologize and offer you all the freedom to enter and exit my country whenever you like, provided that you do not endanger it. I'm interested in learning more about the individual who saved my wife's life. I want to let my people know that the threat to our home has passed, so please escort me back to my village if you would like. Now that the boy has died, you can definitely go back to Konoha and tell the council that your village's survival is due to the fallen hero. He can now sleep soundly knowing that he and his family are safe from both domestic and foreign threats. I see, Shikamaru said. We apologize for any confusion caused by your highness's failure to recognize you. You simply remind us so much of our friend who passed away, and we hoped he lived. We avoided a situation where the council might have believed you were him too and reported you missing because you fixed this for us. As they made their way back to the village, the Konoha shinobi all had a slight smile on their faces and held their heads down, understanding that this was what Naruto meant when he declared he would never return to Konoha. I have one last thing to say, Tsunade said as she stood on the Hokage Tower 3 weeks later, having just finished narrating how the Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha had saved the village thanks to the traitor Danzo and how the people of Snow Country had allowed them to be free from slavery and stop the revived Orochimaru. She listened to some celebrate the demon's death while others lamented his loss. All of you can go to fucking hell since Hokage and I will never be coming back to this village. I resign. You should all be put to death because you are nothing more than a disease. You all would make the founders of this village very sick. I spoke with a number of people prior to this announcement, and Konoha lost the Yamankas, the Nara, the Akamaiki, the Aburame, the Inazaku, the new united Hyuga clan after Hinata, Hiashi, and Neji killed the Hyuga council and united their family, as well as the Uchiha family. Yes, we encountered Sasuke Uchiha during this mission, and he joined another village because of your treatment of someone he considered family, along with a number of businesses, your alliance with Sand, Wave, Snow, Bird, Bear, Demon, Moon, Star, Rice, Sea, Tea, and Waterfall Country, and the Fire Lord himself, who was disgusted by someone who was clearly a hero. I wish you a long and happy life. Goodbye, she said. Get me out of this hellhole and don't worry about the damage, as she leapt into the air and called forth Katsuyu. As everyone stood in shock at what had just transpired, Katsuyu destroyed a significant number of the buildings in her path out of the village. What are we to do? Asked a member of the civilian council. Enjoy your lives, little humans, because those who harmed my vessel are going to be joining me in hell and I will love playing with you all for all eternity, Kyuubi said as he used his tails to destroy the Hokage monument before ascending into the smoke. Kyuubi had just emerged from a puff of smoke standing atop the monument. And so the mighty tree has fallen. Naruto thought I had intended to leave them alone, but the Konoha clans requested permission to join the elemental village after I passed away. As he approached his wife, who had been hiding in the trees behind the Hokage monument, he said, at least now I really can be genuinely happy with not only my family but my friends as well. He then gave her a kiss and said, let's go home, mom and sister must be growing weary of watching the kids. As she rubbed her hips against his, Yukie grinned and remarked, you know, we could go on another honeymoon. Before they both departed in a whirl of leaves, Naruto pulled her into a kiss and grinned, thinking, well, I guess I'm going to be a dad Aegean someday.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.